What?
Hello, everybody. This is the Random Party Generator with special guest James Raggi. I have usurped Eric's seat, as you can see. I'm on the top left corner now. Was that the Marsha Brady side? Right, and I'm up there.
Oh God! Don't even ask.
Yeah, I got the hair.
I'm
so
not
yeah.
Googling it this time.
Huh? You're not? Oh, Rob, you're not going to check the facts. And to my right, to my left, you're right. We got James Raggi in the top right corner for the Greg Brady spot. All right. And somewhere in the middle, if somebody comes in, it could be Alice, but Rob Connolly down in the bottom right, and Eric over there. The bottom left is going to be handling all the questions and everything else that we have here. We expect a hell of a crowd. All right. So it should be fun. And once the word gets out that James has finally made it on camera, this should be cool, and other than his own show. He doesn't do too many interviews. So this is fun. So James Raggi. All right. So here's a little history. A quick bit of a history, right? In the ancient days of the OSR, when it was still forming, right? Pre-OSR, you had Dragon's Foot, ODD 74 board, and all those kind of things, right? And then the blogs came about. And James had a blog, like all of us here. I think we all had the blogs, and we're messing around and trying to figure stuff out. What was D&D? Can we still play it? Because 4E sucks, and Gygax died, and Arneson died, and we wanted to get back to the old stuff. And so a lot of clones came out, right? We had Labyrinth Lord, we had Ozaric, we had Swords and Wizardry, and then James came out. And I think one of your quotes, James, I always missay this, but you correct me maybe if I'm wrong here, but something to the effect of, if the OSR is ever going to grow, we got to be bigger than 150 people selling each other our own shit, passing the same money back and forth around amongst ourselves. And so James, taking his own advice, put out Lamentations of the Flame Princess. I think it was the first non-clone OSR game. All right. And that in the sense that he took BX, he took the skeleton of BX, right? Labyrinth Lord or whatever, and he changed it. He added it. He made it his own game. He made it creepy, weird, horror, Cthulhu-y, scary, punky, fun, evil shit. Does that sum it up, James? What do you think?
Yeah, I think that would sum it up. I don't know that I was the first, though, to do that, but
I don't know who else beat you, man. I don't know who else beat you to it.
Plus the original OSR was a reaction to 3rd edition. 4th just made it a lot more popular
and fun, because we could all beat on it. Nobody liked 4th. Yeah. So he put out the Lamentations of the Flame Princess, and we were all blogging and talking together. And I remember I'm talking on ICQ, and I remember you texted me one night there and said something like, "Hey, I figured out a skill system, D6 based." I'm like, "Dude, use a D12. It's the most underused dice in all of D&D." And he said, "Nah, screw that, D6." And he stuck with it. So good for you, man. And then he came out with really cool books, and they're still coming. So what we're going to talk about tonight is just random shit like we usually do. But the first thing, I know everybody's asking about or whatever, because I did a podcast about this a while ago and a couple of years ago. And basically it was 10 minutes of me saying, "Where's the fucking ref book?" In various ways, in various dialects, and various hits of anger in there.
We agreed not to talk about this.
Oh, no, that was the one thing we agreed to talk about, and then we're going to hit everything else. So get the bullshit out of the way first, man.
Yeah.
What's up, buddy? What's up with the ref book? I know you're back.
Okay, what's up with the ref book?
Ago, and here we go.
What's up for the ref book? Number 1, I'm an idiot. Number 2, there are no good excuses. I deserve every bit of criticism I get for it being this stupid late. So that's first thing. Second thing is, I had a rough version of it at Gen Con available for people to page through if they wanted, just to prove that it's not complete vaporware. It's extremely irresponsibly, inexcusably slow to come out, but it's a thing that is existing and is going to come out.
All right.
One problem is that the version that people had to page through at Gen Con was 720 pages, so there's still work to be done to make it.
Slightly editing, maybe a little bit of editing.
Yeah. But you know, shit exists, and
right.
Shit will exist in a form that people will get to have. It's just not on a responsible timescale, but we are far closer to it being done than from the original thing to fund
All right.
it. So
All right.
So,
And-
so it sounds like you had a lot to say, and you're just having trouble. You're having trouble just cutting it down to the essentials, or is that
it's more like I'm not one for brevity. The problem with the 720 pages is that it's rambly, and then there's a lot of stuff, and what needs to be in there. Like, it includes sort of like a mini campaign area, and it's like, if we have so much of this other stuff, does that still stay part of that? And if not, does that change the because what I did with the starting campaign area that would be in the ref book is it was a different author that did each of the parts of that, because the point of it was to teach people, okay, if you're using a bunch of adventure modules, how do you fit it together to make a coherent campaign out of it?
Yeah.
And
without
that
being a
kind
railroad.
yeah, and so that kind of spun out of control. So that's a huge chunk of it. And then yeah, so
Remember, you added monsters too, James. I mean, the first ref book wasn't going to have a monster manual. You
Right,
added that along the way too. That increased the size, right?
yeah, because then there's that, and then the sample magic items, putting in sample versions of the things that shouldn't have standard versions of anything, which will result if people use this as like a standard
template. Yeah.
if they use it well, if they use them as is, like in Dungeons and Dragons, people use the magic items straight out of the Dungeon Master's Guide, and they use the monster straight out of the Monster Manual. And if you do that with these, it's I don't even know how that would work, but I'm fascinated to see if people actually do that out in the wild, especially the people that aren't plugged into the community, but just kind of get the books, because we are in retail and everything. So it's fascinating thinking of what if people use these things that are supposed to be samples and examples, and maybe, pull from them if you need a little boost in your game. It's like, oh crap, something should be here, can't think of, I'll use one of these. But if people use that as, this is the magic item list and this is the monster list for this game, it's going to be nuts.
Did you do some sort of a version of your random esoteric monster generator thing, but for your style of game for LTFP? Did you put something like that in there?
Yeah,
and if not, I'm not suggesting it, because it makes it longer. It takes a while. But
yeah, well, the issue with that is when there is a version of that in there, but that part's not complete because I started having categories of monsters that weren't based on body type, but monsters that start out as like concepts or abstract concept monsters. And it's like, how the hell do you have a system of creating that includes abstract concept monsters to randomly generate that's also in the same system as monsters, physical monsters?
well?
And it sort of breaks my brain thinking, okay, it's like this is the problem why I have so many ideas that never get done, because I got a cool idea, I sit down with it, and I'm like, this is beyond me to actually make this into a workable, gameable product. I guess we'll set that aside until later.
The slush pile begins. Yeah.
Yeah.
If Joe, but here's the thing: if Joe and I were sitting in that room with you right now, could you walk us through how you create stuff? Could you teach?
Yeah, that's easier. The problem is putting that into like a table that exists on its own in a book is different than me walking you through that would use like an example. Because
do a walkthrough. Have a like
but
a
if it's not a table to
conversation.
begin with, maybe you're just beating your head against the wall for no good reason.
Exactly. But then
Isn't that what art is?
Yeah.
If you think about it, that's what we all
Yeah.
do. Sit there
Well,
trying
I
to
can
create
tell
some
you from my
bullshit.
experience
What's oh,
from GURPS is that because GURPS, especially when the edition starts out like GURPS Third Edition and Fourth Edition, usually they have you design. They like to present it as a toolkit, so they don't give you a monster manual in GURPS, and the community gets divided right in half. There are people who never want to see that chance, want them to spend their time producing other books to extend the line, and there are other books that said, "Where's the monster manual?" So that I think that's what you're going to run into is some people are going to love it and some people are going to hate it, and there's not
well,
going to be much in the way in middle ground.
I've been dealing with that the whole time, but it's and there's also what's the, I see this quote pop up, and I'm sure I'm mangling the quote, and I don't remember where it comes from, but like the definition of a writer is someone who has a particularly difficult time writing, and it's like,
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I know that for my own reasons.
That makes sense. Yeah, you
Yeah.
put her off, you put her off, you put her off, and I need the time crunch. Like just it all goes back to the same shit as like college or law school and finals and the paper, and you sit there and you stress, and and then you got 9 hours before the test. And what do? Or before the papers do, you sit down and you crank it all out, right? It's that. You need the pressure to do it, at least for me. And I think Tim Short says join the group. Is that you, Tim?
Yeah.
You need
All
the
right.
pressure. You need the pressure to get the thing done, but then
Yep.
you beat yourself over the head afterwards, thinking how much better it would have been if you'd used all the time you had
Yeah.
after the fact. But
Yeah. Yep.
oh, yeah.
Yep.
Okay. And
But I was
Hello.
always like better with
Hello, Rupert.
stuff. Oh, hey, James. Just what was one of those things where, like, I know, like when I was in college and all those, if I had a month to get it done, it would not get done until like the last couple of days or something like that. You just need that pressure or whatever to go on. If my hair wasn't on fire, I didn't do well.
My senior thesis was 45 pages long, and I did it in 2.5 days with like very little sleep, and I got an A. If I started 2 months earlier, it would have sucked balls. That's just the way it was.
Oh yeah, I know.
But if it isn't there creative, like James, I don't know if you remember, I tried to do that English Civil War setting, and I got about a third of the way through it, and I just hit a creative blank wall.
Yeah.
I mean,
I remember that. You were struggling with that a lot, Rob. I remember that part.
Didn't
I
that guy
know.
Barry, what's his name, put that out for you, James?
yeah, England upturned. It turned into a different kind of thing, but English Civil War related, but then with a whole lot of other nonsense included.
Yeah.
It's one thing that I've discovered is that people. It's like I like doing the historical thing with Lamentations of the Flame Princess, the early 17th century.
Yep.
Because it allows you to have all of the things that are familiar for D&D style play. People walking around with swords, they're exploring, and the world's not completely interconnected yet. But it's also still just so brutal and primitive in a way that there's no escaping it. It's as much as I can figure, it's the absolute worst time to ever be alive, because all of the other worst times to be alive, it's either localized or there's somewhere you can escape from it. I mean even World War II, there were plenty of places that were affected by the war, but the war wasn't there.
Yeah.
But whereas 17th century, no matter where you are, you've got some sort of just horrific religious oppression and the plague and just 100 other things that there's nowhere to go and escape to live a decent life at all.
So the setting you're creating as part of the ref book, bringing it back to the ref book, is it somewhere based in this like a fictional version of that world, or is it something else?
No, well, the actual setting is the real world, sort of like any horror movie. The basic setting is the actual real world, and then here's the crazy stuff that's added in on top of that. And I often have a problem getting authors on board with that, because they immediately want to start screwing with the history like they're writing Doctor Who. It just seems to be an automatic impulse that, okay, let's take this famous or this important moment in history and show why it was Cthulhu's fault. And it's just like, no. History is horrible enough all by itself. Don't let people off the hook by giving it a supernatural, reason. Don't lessen natural causes like for plagues and stuff by giving it a supernatural cause. It's like history is history, and then put your stuff in through the back door that basically from the point you would start a Lamentations campaign, if you're choosing to go the historical route, it's like history happened exactly like we understand it right up to the point the campaign begins, and then after the campaign begins, then you might be changing everything. You can't be bound by history once the game starts, or else you really have to hammer the game.
Railroad the hell out of them,
yeah. But the idea is not that, secret alternate history is like, no. Real history, just
and then
like
Satan shows up.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
Well, I'm kind of curious, James, because I know you deal with a lot of different writers, and I know how writers can be, fickle fuckers a lot of times and stuff like that. How do you get them corralled to kind of get them back in line with what you want to do?
Usually I give suggestions on how to keep what they want, how to do it, and but like decoupling it, like making it not the cause. Maybe this thing is taking advantage of the thing that happened in history and wasn't the cause. So the link will still be there in the adventure. And from a player's perspective, it'll make absolutely no difference. I'll just feel better about it because history was allowed to be history, and then you added something to it instead of changing what it was.
Yeah, it's going to probably be a tricky balance for that sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, this is what I had. This English Civil War is not quite the war we know from our histories.
James already rejected it right there. Then. X.
That first sentence, boom.
Well, I mean, largely the course of history remained the same. With the help of rituals performed by the state temples of Rome, Julius Caesar managed to conquer Gaul. Everybody heard about a spell created by Henry Tudor's allied wizard drowned the horse of Richard III in the ensuing confusion when the Battle of Bosworth Field. How Queen Elizabeth's court magician, led by John Dee, summoned the storm that wrecked the Spanish Armada. In this world, the Civil War is a supernatural world fought between multiple factions, each with their own vision of England.
Sounds like it would have been rejected if we sent it over, Rob. So
yeah, but then
the human dimension is still the same. What you're not seeing is the 15 paragraphs before it where I outline the reasons for the Civil War.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah, but one thing I like is that we've released a couple things that have nothing supernatural in them at all. And it's interesting how that divides the fan base. Like No Rest for the Wicked is basically it's like a thriller set in the 30 Years' War, and it's just about a family trying to defect, trying to escape from one side of the war, and the agents of the military hunting them down. And then there's the showdown in this inn, and it's like, okay, do you as characters get involved in this? And if you don't, does it matter to you? But there's no supernatural. There's no, oh my God, the world's going to end, or it just focuses basically on this one family, and it's one of those things where it's one of the bits of horror that I really like with Lamentations is it invites you to become part of the horror. The things that you have to do to solve the situation, or what you can take advantage of to really benefit from the situation will make you a monster. And it's very interesting, especially when you have a mixed group of people where some of them don't care. It's just a game. They'll be act completely amorally within the game because they're gonna win the game. And then other people that are taking the situations even a little bit seriously just think, no, we can't do that. And basically you just get to lean back and watch the players just play themselves, and watch that break down. And to me, when that happens, it's like, okay, I've broken the players. I can sit back and relax and just watch the game for a while. And
well, dude, you had us. I remember I did a play test of one of your games. I forget which one it was, but I know I'll describe the scene. I know you'll be able to tell me which one it was. There was some baby dragging around the dead body of its mother by the umbilical cord after it.
Death, Love, Doom.
There you go. So I'm playing this thing, and every time I go in the room, I'm more and more horrified. What the fuck? Let me get out of here. Let me kill the thing that gets me out of the door and get some money and just get away with my sanity. So I think if that's what you're going for, that's what you got out of it.
Well,
So
even in the very early days before I went full on metal and horror, even with Death, Frost, Doom in those very early days, you'd get the reviews where people. Where groups would just get so caught up in the atmosphere that when they found the entrance to the dungeon, they just went, nah, and walked away. And so, like, the reviewer, the discussion would be like, oh, I wasted my money on this adventure that the players didn't want to play. And I'm thinking, I spooked the players so much that they didn't want to take their fake people into the fake place. This is a total win.
That's true.
I had something. It wasn't so much horror, but in the game I ran at ShireCon, the players felt that they completed the mission and never went off and tackled the dungeon. They feel like they never needed to. They said, we rallied the village, we got the bishop tithe, we solved the issue with the star-crossed lovers. They can go deal with the Russet Lord and his crazy fairy minion. We're going to go back to the bishop.
Which is the opposite approach, Rob, that what we had. When you ran it for us, we were like, me and Greg were like, let's break the shit out of this and murder hobo our way through it. And Rob, I think that took you a bit by surprise the other direction.
Yeah, Rob,
you know what I mean?
We took 3-4 sessions. It took your party at the con less than 3 hours.
Yeah.
That's, admittedly you do have a group of murder hobos that are your fellow gamers, but I mean, we will latch on to everything now. And James was always very good at that. James, like your initial stuff, the grinding gear was, it's disgusting.
Gross.
She must be talking about one of James's modules. Disgusting.
Yeah, I guess so.
She must be talking about it.
She's young with the dog.
But the grinding gear to me was always like it's like going through a really hard tournament adventure from the old days, but it wasn't you could actually succeed so long as you were terrified. Whereas the old party screws of the original tournament modules were, no matter what you did, you were screwed. Yeah. You put your head somewhere, you lost your head. You took a step, you lost your foot. You, in the grinding gear, presented something that was what Tomb of Horrors should have been. In my opinion, having played it and run Tomb of Horrors in my teen years and killed many a player and removed many a magic item. Grinding gear was like, wow, this is like Tomb of Horrors with modern sensibilities behind the writing. It wasn't it didn't just
funhouse bullshit dungeon. Yeah.
Those
the orcs had a toilet is the bottom line what we're talking about.
That's what I'm talking about.
It's all about where do the orcs take a shit. We've had this where do the orcs take a shit,
Well, as far as design, because there's some LOTFP adventures where the question is, well, what's my motivation? And it's sort of like at a certain point, the players are there to play.
Right.
And from a writer's perspective, you don't know what context the adventure's going to be used. And for example, if you're going to use it in a convention, then yeah, you need some hook. Then the players are going to be involved. But if you really make the hook really part of the adventure, like make it really integral, then that's going to make it more difficult to put it into a campaign where you don't know what the hell context it's going to be in. So that there's no right or good way to do that, because someone's always going to be left out. But I think with the example of Rob, with the players that did the basic mission and then left the rest of the adventure alone, that's something you can do in a convention adventure. But if you have an ongoing campaign, then the stuff that they leave alone still exists, and you get to decide, okay, what happened because they didn't interact with the thing they had a choice to interact with. What does that choice to not interact do to the situation that could grow and become a problem if they ever try to come back through this area of the campaign? Then maybe it's a situation they can't ignore. And that's one of the things I like with Lamentations adventures. If you're never done playing the adventure, because that's another thing people say they want, are like good standalone adventures to put in my campaign. Well, it's like if you're going to have an adventure that you just do it as this side thing that doesn't affect anything else, it's like that's it's like watching the TV shows these days that have season-long plot arcs. Oh, but here's an episode that has nothing to do with the plot arc, and it's just like, well, this is a waste of time. This is, it's like, what is this? It's like, get on with it. Get on with the thing. And with the campaign, I don't like long plot arc things, but every adventure should have the possibility to really matter, or else why the hell are you playing the adventure in the first place?
Well, it's like those X-Files episodes that every once in a while, just the monster of the week shit that tied into nothing. It's like, oh man, here we go. You're just sitting through the bullshit and you don't know what it is until you watch it. How stupid it's going to be.
It's like filler episodes.
Yeah.
Right. But I think the problem with that is, like, if you have a situation that's not tied into the greater plot, that's fine. But the idea that it never, the idea that it just stays contained and then doesn't affect things going forward, that's what makes an adventure inconsequential, I think. Is that, sure, it might not be connected to the main thing you're doing, but it should still have lasting consequences, or have the potential for lasting consequences, which means it was meaningful to actually do. Even if 10 sessions later you're on something completely else, there's something still hanging around potentially from this one side quest that makes it continually relevant. Because in practical terms, that's not going to happen. You're not going to run a campaign for years in the old style where every single session is monumental and important to how every session after goes. But I think it's important to have the potential to be there, for there to be some thread that continues on even when you're supposedly done with the adventure. And having adventures that have their little influence tentacles that go out for some period of time, I think players do approach things differently when they understand that, that's always on the table. And the players start dividing themselves up into we have to be really cautious about everything, and then the other players are like, what's this button do? These buttons are always fun in these games.
That's the Shane approach. The Shane,
yes, it is.
I gotta touch everything, and we're all just running for cover when Shane plays in the game. Shane Ward, if you're listening, that's you. Yes.
Well, the way I approach it is there's varying levels of scope, and most of the time, like in life, the scope is pretty much limited to your immediate social circle, which can be absolutely devastating for that immediate circle. But in terms of the larger world, it's just one more thing in what everybody else is experiencing. But as far as the player is concerned, they don't want that to wreck what they're doing, so they take it I find that they take it very seriously, and but that that I keep that in mind when I run a campaign, that not everything has to be about the world, not everything has to be about the region. Sometimes it can be just threatening to who the player characters know at that point and what and their immediate goals, and they would treat it just as seriously as the world-ending idea.
And the cool thing is they don't know ahead of time what it's going to be. Is it going to be just a random encounter with orcs, or is it going to be the thing that they have the thing that leads to whatever hell five levels down the road, right? So you don't know until you get into it. That's the as long as you keep them guessing, I think you're winning as a DM. You know, just keep them wondering.
Or you know, well, I'm thinking of this example here. I'm just thinking of the end of The Walking Dead, one of the later seasons, where they just suddenly run into these people, you know, this group of people saying, we're with the saviors and we need tribute. And they go, oh, up yours, and gun them down, thinking, some weird random encounter. And it's like, little did they know.
Yeah.
It'll drag the rest of the whole show down for 3 seasons.
Well, that's shit. That's when they went off the rails. As soon as they killed Glenn, spoiler alert. Yeah,
I hear a critique there.
Yeah. Actually,
not a positive one either.
We're getting questions from the masses. From John Miller, frequent flyer with us. This may be a dumb question, but for those of you who have played D&D set in the 1600s, what impact do firearms have on combat? James, you're the expert.
Practically almost none, because they're very slow to reload. So it's basically everyone shoots a gun and then takes out their swords and charges.
It's like a heavy draw crossbow, like one of those big Bessie Mulder kind of takes 3 rounds to reload things, basically, right?
Yeah. So
like my Night Killer crossbow.
So nobody wants to take the time to do nothing while everyone else is playing. So it's they just shoot and then charge.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I find in that kind of type thing too. Yeah.
I think Mike has one too there, Eric. How often do important things need to happen? Enough to keep their interest, I think.
I don't think it's important. I don't think it's how often do important things need to happen. It's how often do players confronted with something that could be important. Because it's, again, not always obvious in the moment, but if they don't know, they'll treat everything as potentially so.
Yeah, keep them guessing. They don't know if it's a random goblin or the big goblin that you need to solve the big puzzle with. James, do you have long campaigns? And the reason I asked this is because I remember I asked you something years ago. I was running a LTFP campaign for about a year, and just really kicking the tires and taking it out and trying to get higher levels and this and that. I asked you, I think it was a question about scrolls or scribing, the level needed, whatever the hell it was. And I think you said you could do them at any level, didn't matter. And I said, usually the old system was like 7th or 9th level. And you said something to the effect of, my characters they don't live that long. So I wonder, do you run long campaigns, or is it just like a slightly longer Cthulhu thing where they die rather than go insane?
Okay, well, honestly, I haven't been running any sort of regular games since the pandemic started. And I keep telling myself, okay, now I got to get something going again, regular. And that's, but then everything, it's like inertia. If you got a regular game going, it's easy to keep the regular game going. Yeah. But if everything just stops for a while, and then it's just, there's every excuse to just be like, well, the next variant might end it. But now it's just like, okay, we're getting like 4th boosters now opened up to more people. And then the case counts keep going down. It's like everything's open. And it's like, well, what's my fucking excuse? And there's always an excuse. So, but so it's not so much now. And I got to get back on that because that affects my output. But as far as previously, there would be a very high turnover of characters, really.
Not players.
Not so much players. The player turnover is less. If someone's there a few times, they'll generally be there a lot of times. But as far as characters go, it's not as much as you would think judging by how people react to the modules just reading them, the turnover of characters is not as much as people would assume, but it is there. Because one of the things I like with Lamentations is what level your character isn't really the most directly important thing of how survivable the character is in an adventure. It's sort of this weird decoupling there where you have the system and you have the opportunity for your character to get better, be able to do more things, and be more durable. But on the other hand, that's not directly how you interact with the actual game. So there's a little bit of a weird thing going on there, but so the survivability is more in what the player is doing more than what the stats are on the character sheet. So once you have a player that's been able to get past that first level, it's they'll have an idea of how I operate, in my games. So they'll be able to know, it's like, okay, maybe we should be cautious here, and maybe we can be a bit more, daring here. And they're not always right, but they start getting a sense. That's the advantage of adventure modules, because in situations like that, they're playing off of me as much as they're playing off of the situation. If it's an adventure module written by someone else, suddenly they can't do that, and it's an entirely new situation. The referee, in this case me, would be running something that's not them, so it's a different approach. So it's a bit of a stretch than what you would normally do during something that you've come up with, and then the players are reacting to a really alien hostile situation because they can't read what they know of from this person that's been running the past bunch of alien dangerous situations. So that's one of the real utilities of using adventure modules at least once in a while.
And just
So
to keep on
just
their
curious,
toes.
just curious. You mentioned the 30 Years War module about helping the family out. How do you see the role of a magic user and a cleric in that type of adventure when you release it?
Well,
they have spells, so
right. Well, they can really have an advantage in that situation because the opposition. Spoiling the hell out of that adventure, but in that situation, the opposition isn't going to have a fix. There's no magical counterpart, so that's an incredible advantage for the players. I mean, a charm person becomes this. If you're in a non-magical environment, a charm person just becomes this awesome game-winning thing in some cases. The first level spell still makes you just this wild, superpowered thing, and I think it's good once in a while to play with that, because in these kind of games, the first level magic user, especially people fans of newer games, look at the old style magic user. You get one spell.
Yeah, but if it's your summon spell,
there
you go.
Charm person's permanent detect evil lasts for 2 hours. They're not just one spell.
Yeah. So if you have a situation where things are more mundane, then even that low-level magic user is this really exotic thing and can become the real center of everything in a way that they're not if they're a first-level magic user in a a typical dungeon environment where everything's magical and everything's going to kill you and you get to do your thing once. It's good to let the magic user flex a little. It's another reason to do some mundane stuff once in a while.
So your setting with the ref book, James, is it based in our world at a certain place in time, or is it somewhere similar? And
no, it's Earth. 1630 is the usual baseline.
Okay.
But people can take that up or down a few years. Yeah, but the basis is this is Earth. It's like Lovecraft stuff. Most
Yeah,
of
yeah.
his stuff, he's got his
1920s.
yeah, yeah, but his the assumption is this is the world just like ours.
Mm-hmm.
You just didn't know what was there,
Gotcha.
and that's basically how almost every horror movie and horror novel treats the setting. It's our world as we know it, and then there's this other thing. It's just in a role-playing campaign, it's just going to be, and here's another thing, and here's another thing, and here's another thing. So as I said, you can't preserve history in an ongoing campaign. You just say, up until the campaign starts, it's history.
Right.
Well, here, a thing I found out when writing that England thing, well, I kind of knew it before, but it was really thrown in my face doing the research for it, is that you got to keep in mind to a 17th century, early 17th century individual, they view the world as magical.
Yeah.
There's some things that we know the mundane interpretation of it, but to them, it was supernatural.
Mm.
So there's a lot of room to play around with that.
Yeah.
In a campaign.
Yeah, but they also bend the witch then too, so you got that issue. You're
Right.
throwing around spells.
yeah.
Next thing you know, get the mob is coming with the pitchforks and
You legitimize their fears.
yeah.
Yeah, but there's wiggle room. You have to
With
do
a fireball,
the
baby.
homework.
You got a fireball, you got some wiggle room. Other than that, eventually they're gonna win. You got to sleep and memorize, man.
James, I got a question for you. You started as pretty much a true self-publisher. You were publishing your work, your adventures, and now you've morphed, turned into, suddenly woke up, and now you are a fairly major, important publisher, at least in the old school gaming area, if not beyond. How did that transition happen for you? Were you conscious of it even as it happened?
Yeah. Well,
You're one of very few making a living at it, James. Very few,
Yeah.
a handful. That's great.
Yeah, and it's and that gets harder all the time
In
in the current environment.
Yeah.
But it's well, the thing is, when you're working with another person's thing, I don't know. It's like all the work is just about bringing this thing that's been delivered to you to life. And it's easier to do that. And I mean, not just effort, but I mean in the emotional output. It's easier to deal with other people's stuff and see what's wrong with it or what's right with it, or be able to see how it should be, a lot easier than it is taking like one of my own ideas from conception through execution through presentation. I'll have these ideas that I don't know. It's weird. I don't like getting caught up in my own ego in my own work, even though my own work is basically this is what I think should be. And it's a weird thing that when you have something good from someone else, it's like there's none of that consideration. There's none of worrying about me and
Well, that makes perfect sense
Yeah.
to me. I can understand that because we always say we are our own worst critic, but when it comes to our creations, we're not our own worst critic. We are often very. We look at it through very rose-colored glasses, and we see what we want to see because we won't see our own faults. Because just like as a game master, when you run an adventure that you've written, if it's missing stuff, you still have it up here. Maybe it's not written down, but when it gets into a published format and it's your own, you miss the fact that there's stuff missing because for you it was never missing. I can understand that being taking a step back and looking at the work of others. It's easier to be critical and be honest with the work of others than it is on your own. And I've learned that with my own little bits of publishing. It's a lot easier to edit somebody else's work than have your own work edited and look at it and go, no, but that's not. No, I don't exactly want it that way. I don't. You know?
And I know this makes me the most uncool person in the room to say, but if I publish someone else's thing and I think it's good, it's just like that's the review that matters. I think it's good. We've put this thing together. I am proud to present this other person's thing, and I care about how well it sells, and good or bad reviews are in service to helping it sell, because I already think it's good. Whereas if it's my thing, the good and bad reviews, I'm not receiving them as sales. I'm receiving that as like personal judgment of my use to the world.
Your entire world self-esteem. Yeah,
well, this is what I do. I mean, for some weird thing, I mean, coming up with strange things to make weirdos feel better, to entertain themselves in this, stupid world is my spot. That's all the use I have. that's the great use.
Yeah.
The people that tell me that, oh, my stuff got them back into role playing. Oh, nobody else is doing anything just like this. Oh, I mean, that it's incredible, because I know what it's like, when I get something from someone else, like when you see a movie and you think, this was made just for me. Or you listen, you hear a new band and it was just like, this is what's, this feeling is, this sounds like what I've been feeling in my head forever. And you feel, and you're like so grateful for that artist to exist. When people tell me things like that about the work I'm presenting, it's just like, I feel this is what I do, and this is strange that I say that, oh, I just make nonsense, but some people really fucking get it, and then I feel like, okay, this is my place in the world. It's not really self-deprecating, or it doesn't seem so weird. It's like, yeah, this is a place I have in the world. There is a place for me where somebody finds my existence in my work beneficial to their life, and it's just like,
well, it's still happening, James. I mean, to this day, about a year and a half ago, I went to it was a good game store in a crappy strip mall in a crappy part of town. You know what I mean? And I walk in there, and I'm the old guy, right? Most of them play Magic the Gathering, some other weird shit on the side, all the tables, and I'm going to the RPG section. And I asked some guy to let me into the cases. To look at minis, and we're talking about books and games, and he sees I'm ancient, and he's 20 something or whatever, and I'm 50-ish or whatever, and he starts telling me about this new game he heard about, and he started playing. He really loves it, Lamentations of the Flame Princess, and this and that. I'm like, let me tell you about Raggi. Son, let me learn you something. It's another 20 minutes later, I had him hooked. Give me your site, all the stuff, Some people are still talking. They're still finding it, even though you put it out, 10, 12 years ago, it's still coming out, They're still finding it. We all went to a Complete Strategist, Eric, myself, Professor Dungeon Master, a couple of guys, and you look, and your shit's there, man. So, it's still there, so it's just a matter of, it's still being found and still being played, so that's kind of cool. I always thought about someday if I was ever to publish a book. Everybody all wanted to publish Lord of the Rings when we were kids, right? We all wanted the next big book, the great author, whatever you wanted to be. I always thought it wouldn't be cool to see it in Walden Books or Barnes and Noble. I always thought it would be cool to see it at a used bookstore, because then it got passed around. You know what I mean? Somebody liked it. Somebody read it. They put it there, and they're going to sell it, and somebody else is going to read it. And that cycle of life that goes with a book, forever. It just keeps on going.
Yeah, but from my point of view, I'm thinking, if I see my stuff in a used bookstore, or someone's have it on eBay, I'm thinking, oh, someone doesn't like it anymore.
Look how much it goes for on eBay. How about that?
Yeah, that's the other thing, man. That's the other thing.
Yeah. That's the weird thing, because it's very, oh God, yeah. That whole thing, that reaction, what I just said, oh, they don't like it anymore. It's, even after all these years, I don't have that armor. Like, if someone wants to like if someone doesn't like the thing, I mean, there are ways that they'll express that I think, oh yeah, it's not for you. But then it's in other times it's like really it feels like a personal rejection, and it's so weird that even doing this long and dealing with what was it going on now? 13 years of all sorts of nonsense, and there's nonsense from day one. It still is just, yeah. There's still that thrill. There's that thrill of, oh, are people gonna like this? And it doesn't matter if people do really like this. There'll be the people that are that don't like it, that it stings, and I'm thinking, what's wrong with me? I shouldn't be feeling this. This is normal. This is you do this to talking about other people's creations, because what's important when you have it in your hand is how you feel about the thing. I mean, if you don't like the thing that's in front of you, you don't think, oh well, the creator's going to you don't do that. So
Yeah.
you shouldn't expect other people to do that. Yet it's still like, oh, I wish they would have liked it.
As a segue to that, Bad Mike, is another one there. It says, James, have you ever received a submission that you passed on because it became obvious it was written purely just to titillate?
Yes. And also it's how do I say this? Because
Well, we can curse, so say whatever you
Yeah.
want.
right,
I mean,
no,
yeah,
no.
it's fine.
I'm just thinking like I remember when Blood in the Chocolate came out. One of the criticisms was, oh, the author's just putting their own fetishes into the book. And I just thought, well, so what? Shouldn't this work be a little bit personal? And if they want to put something like that in there, it's like, okay. But I've received submissions or pitches. They really didn't get to the point where the pitches where it seemed like that was the whole point of the work,
Yeah,
to
shock jock
display
stuff.
their not just shock jock, but I get off on this, and so I want to make a
Oh,
whole thing about what I get off on,
okay.
and then that's is just kind of like,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
How
Yeah.
creepy.
you can't just have a thing that's just all about your own self gratification.
Yeah.
These things also have to be for other people.
Yeah. Niche of a niche, kind of. Yeah, that makes sense. You're very narrowing it down as it is. If you're just going to make it about yourself and your own little kink, whatever the hell that
Yeah,
kink may
yeah.
be. I know, James, you started way before you started Limitations. Your roots in publishing were for zines, right? You used to do
Yes.
a metal zine. Was it called
Yes.
Same thing? Was it the same name?
Yes.
Okay, so that started. So the name of of this game was based on the zine's name, which is all based on a hot redheaded chick like Charlie Brown's girlfriend you saw when you were younger or something, right? Something like that. If I remember
Yeah,
right, that's the root of the story. Have you ever thought about doing a Lamentations RPG zine?
Oh boy. Could you really do that while
know.
still being an active publisher? Because every time I talk about another publisher's doings, I feel like I'm being unprofessional and catty. Like Monty Cook is kickstarting their new Weird thing,
Mm-hmm.
and my first thought is just like, fuck you, that's mine. And how it could be a good book. I don't know. I haven't looked at it because my thing is, well, I don't want. If something bleeds in from music or a book or a movie, I can just say, oh, it's an homage. I was inspired. If you read something in role playing and it ends up bleeding through into your work, it's like you're ripping someone off in the same sphere.
Mhm.
So it's like, should I even be looking at this book? Because then what if, 3 years from now, I have a great idea and it's ripped straight out of someone else's shit. But yeah, but it's the thing that's I would just be like early days in the blog before I was like really full on as a publisher, it was full of just taking shots and the RPG blog just full of criticizing people and taking shots and blah blah blah.
No, we had opinions.
Oh
We
yeah,
we
yeah,
still
and
do. That's what my whole blog was about, busting
yeah,
balls, really. You know.
yeah. Well, it's like
Mr. 2,000 copper pieces or
Yeah.
whatever it was.
Yeah.
so it's
We
like
broke
okay,
in. Anyway,
yeah,
That's it,
but
King Smile. Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun though. That was
but
fun.
in my current position, I mean, what's that going to be? It's how I just imagine someone getting the Lamentation. Oh, they've got they've released like 90 things so far. Then go to the blog. This other publisher released something that sucks, and it's like, how the fuck is that going to look? And how
you
could
know,
I?
I'm with you on that one. I find my desire to be critical, unless it's to an extreme, like a certain individual that I had to recently deal with,
Sorry again, Rob.
it's gone. I mean, I don't. The tools are out there. There's a lot of open content. Everybody shared a lot of stuff. Just pick up the pieces, do your thing, and have at it. If I don't
And if you
like
think
it,
of, and if you think about it too, if what we were writing about 10 years ago and like the criticisms and critical stuff that we do, I mean, some of it was like tongue in cheek, some of it was hyperbole, just to get a reaction kind of thing. If you try to do that today, they'd send the lynch mob at you. They'd take it personal. They would like get all up, and it's just like, if you do get critical, you just don't know what kind of reaction you're gonna kind of get these days. I was never one to get critical with folks. I mean, I just there was never one of my styles. If I didn't like anything, I just didn't really say too much about it. But like what you were saying, James, about being criticized and getting the negative things, I didn't mind if I like with my stuff, I never minded if it was a negative review and they actually read my shit. So if they read it and it was based on what I actually wrote, okay, that's fine. That's fair. You actually put the effort in. But if they were just saying it's shit and I could tell they never wrote it or read it, then their opinion didn't count. And a lot of times, I never had as big as audience as you did, James, for that. But so I would go to the guys who did the negative reviews, and I would just say, hey, thanks for taking the time to do the review. I hope you like the next one better.
Yeah,
and,
I did that
just
once or twice too.
Just the nice, and it kind of in a way kind of got me a little bit more of a those guys. Some of the guys would just say F you, but a lot of them would say, hey, thanks for not getting mad about the negative review. And I'm like, no, it was fair review. It's like, you read this stuff, you didn't like it, I got it, understood. It's not going to be for everyone. God, can you imagine if you wrote something that everybody liked, how sucky it must be at that point?
Yeah. Pasteurized, homogenized, vitamin D bullshit.
Oh God, yeah.
But,
That'd be horrible.
The funny thing though is that when I brought up the question is about the zine doing it, you assumed there would be a criticism thing. I was just thinking something like, because that's what you did. You did music criticism and talking about shit, or like a print version of the blog. But all I was just thinking of is, I got this submission from so and so, and I got this one from so and so, and it's shit. But this table's pretty fucking cool. And next thing you know, you got 10 random things you can put together in a LotFP zine. And it's just tools or a quickie adventure, or maybe a bit of art, or a quick 5-room dungeon or something like that. And it doesn't have to be a criticism. It could just be something that here's some random things from the bottom of the barrel that I think are good, but they can't find a place in any actual module for them. Something like that.
Yeah, but then I also know how I am though, because of my old zine days. After the first couple issues, I had the editor of the biggest newsstand metal mag taking a full page, just completely ripping me apart in print on the newsstand. I had, my only death threat to date was from the metal zines. Someone calling my house, telling if I didn't watch my mouth, I'm going to end up with my throat cut. But they didn't tell me what they were upset about. What did I write? So I couldn't help on it.
Oh, geez.
Just general. I had I remember one band telling me if I ever come to one of his shows, he's going to piss on my head from the stage.
Oh, that's
And
nice.
it's
That's
just
pretty
like,
good, though.
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah,
Use some
I-
shampoo, dude, and you're good. Yeah.
Wow, you really
or
poked up there.
getting the phone call from a musician wanting to discuss this review I wrote. I'm like, oh fuck, because what ideally when you're writing about this stuff, you being inhibited and worried about, if you're worried about the reception, that's going to affect how you do the writing.
Mm.
And it's like, okay, are you doing this to express something, or are you doing this on the other end to have a good reception? And I'm always in conflict with the kind of material that I produce for role playing. I'm very much always in conflict. Is this, and generally I try to get myself in a mode that the things I'm most nervous about are the things that most have to be done. But there's a real fear thing. I mean, putting out Book of Antithesis, and especially White, WIGHT, Power. You know, when Alex came to me with that, and it was just like, it's against everything I've ever believed in to tell him no.
Yeah.
Because what he did is obviously not bad, but I knew how it was going to be received. I knew the knee-jerk reaction people were going to have just seeing the title.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, so there's always this conflict, and luckily I grew up with my mother showing me freaking, Flesh for Frankenstein, and going to, the local video store and getting Toxic Avenger and Trauma movies. And so I have this background that there is no limit, and the people that tell you that there is a limit, well, fuck them.
Yeah.
Well, it's not that easy. It's really not that easy. But I'm not going to it's rough. So, but then deciding on a zine, okay, I'm going to say what I think about things and not just have it be a publicity outlet, which I wouldn't be good for doing that anyway. But if I'm going to do like a zine where it's all about my opinions on this stuff, it's like, okay, now we're in a position where I'm not just a reporter and I'm not a fan. I'm in some ways a colleague. I'm in the industry with these people taking those shots. I couldn't do that. I would. I mean, there are going to be times that I'm going to go on a rant and criticize, but it's not going to be done in that really personal, what he really thinking in the lizard part of your brain to tell these people to go fuck themselves. It's rough.
There's a good question there. Climbing the mountain. James took a style of gaming that was at time the past and made a game out of it that was at one time the future. Okay, so you took an older game and it was the future of gaming when you did it, which is, I think, true. It would be great to hear what he thinks about the future of RPG gaming. There's a big one.
Well,
I need 3-4 hours to answer that one.
I fear it's going to be more and more technology based, in which case I'm really screwed because I can't deal with technology very well. I'm very because for example, I've never used any of the online tabletop services.
Okay.
So I can't even imagine. Is like, how do those work? Because I imagine that those things are optimized for use with like BattleNet style gaming. Okay,
go ahead.
educate me.
As far as okay, so there's 3 levels. One,
I sense a screen share in the very near future.
No screen
you're
share.
not going to win that bingo tonight. It's all about that guy, not my screen shares tonight. So what makes a VTT a VTT is something that does with chat, but most people don't do check chat much anymore. They do voice or video like this. Dice, a few basic RPG utility, mostly a dice roller and a whiteboard. So anything you could draw with a dry erase whiteboard you could do with a VTT. With the added bonus, you can throw a picture up there and show an image. So if you have a JPEG or something of anything, you could show it. So that's one way you could use a VTT. The other way to use a VTT, which because it's all sexy looking and people talk about it all the time, is to use the full-blown range of utility what happened, which means you have a character sheet that encodes the rules of all your system. You have a like a turn tracker, you have a battle map, you put tokens on, you could even set up lighting if you want. You can go that route.
Special effects,
just like
sound
just
effects,
like in real
music.
life, you can buy
Yeah.
Dwarven Forge and I forgot it. Who's the guy who runs Dwarven Forge? What's his
Corny.
name?
Stefan.
Yeah, if you can have his game room all set up and go that crazy, or you could be this DM who shows up with a dry erase board and a few dice to mark where people are and still have a
Right.
great time, or not even do it at all, just do theater of mind. You could do all that with a VTT. The only advantage that the VTT gives you if you're a theater of the mind is the shared sense of community by everybody seeing everybody else's dice roll.
Yeah.
That is the one compromise people make.
And
I recommend.
Rob's talking about those are the two extremes. I'm very close to the minimalist, and I've told the story in the past. But when Roll20 was becoming big and popular, they reached out to me because I was a big and popular blogger, and they wanted me to stream a sessions. I would talk about our RPG sessions using Roll20, using Hangouts. And I was flattered, but I gave them the honest answer. I said, listen, all I use the VTT for, all I use Roll20 for is dice rolls and Fog of War, where I can put the map down. Because for me, the hardest thing always when DMing is explaining what everything looks like room-wise. You put a map down that's hidden from the players, and then you reveal pieces for Fog of War. I don't use tokens. I didn't use character sheets at the time. People could point on the fucking board and tell me where they were. It was mostly theater of the mind. And they also said I play with a group of players where I'd probably have to cut 90% of the audio.
Yeah,
we were politically incorrect, offensive, and a bunch of assholes.
It was our Saturday night drinking session where we also rolled dice sometimes. That's what that game was.
They never got back to me with when I responded to them. Apparently, I not just fell off the list, I was erased from the list.
So James, for you as a publisher, just like you didn't write the software that you use for your storefront right now, what you need to do is just hire somebody to make a rule set for Fantasy Ground and a rule set for Roll20 and anybody else you want to target. The Boundary is another big one. But just stick to one or two of them, and you've done what you need to do as a publisher, if that's all you're worried about.
Right.
And the other thing, and you actually blasted me for this when I did maps for you. You need to make your maps VTT friendly by having a version without the numbers. And what you blasted me for is you put the S with the secret door on the side that is not secret.
Yeah.
No, you don't want to put the S on top of the secret door because then they'll see it when they use Eric's Fog of War.
Right.
But other than that, that's pretty much all. That's just what you need to worry about. And if you have an enthusiastic author on your team who wants to do more, then just talk it over with them and let them do more. Just like you have somebody help you out with the storefront.
Yeah. And I just want to point out one thing about James' storefront that I didn't know until we were talking about a year ago. He has a U.S. and a UK and an EU storefront, right? U.S. United States people, there is less stuff often on the U.S. storefront, I've noticed, than on the EU storefront. We can all buy from the EU storefront. It's not like we're banned from buying stuff there. So that was something I was like, really?
Yeah,
you got to pay more shipping. That's all it is.
Yeah. We ship worldwide. Well, not to Ukraine or Russia or Belarus right now, but we ship worldwide from both stores. It's just basically as you want stuff shipped from, Helsinki, or do you want stuff shipped from Michigan? that's the choices, and that's why the stock's different between the two. Because
Yeah.
that's all that is.
Hey, did you do Gen Con this year? Did you go in person or?
I went to Gen Con this year.
Yeah, how was it?
It was for some reason I had it in my head. People were talking things were getting back to normal, but attendance was down quite a bit from last time I was there in 2019.
I was wondering about that, just in terms of the future of gaming aspect. Where conventions are going to be a thing that big anymore.
Yeah, well, there were still tens and tens of thousands of people there.
Yeah.
It just wasn't that difficult to walk through the aisles in the vendor hall, and it's just and the investment that I have to make to get my ass over there and to do that, it's just I like put a bunch. It's business stuff that normally it would have been just fine. It would have been great. But I sort of was thinking, okay, this is going to be the same volume as a few years ago.
Yeah.
And so I put money into it with that idea. And then it's just kind of like, oh, yeah, not as many people here. Because it's like in addition to anything going on with the economy, there's still the people that are too freaked out about COVID to go anywhere near a crowd, and the people pissed off that Gen Con had mask and vaccine requirements. So all those people stayed home for both sides of that. And it's just like, fuck.
Was there much old school stuff at Gen Con, even with the reduced attendance?
Again, when I go to conventions, I really don't do the convention. I'm just doing my booth. So hard to say because I don't really I don't sign up to play games and stuff. It's like I am there to work.
Yeah. You do any other US cons or just Gen Con?
Just Gen Con, because my US distributor does a thing where they'll get product to and from the convention.
Okay.
If they did that with more conventions, I'd probably try to do some more of the bigger ones, but it's just because of the warehouse is reasonably close to Indianapolis, so that's how that works out.
I'm coming up on my 40th. 2024 is my 40th anniversary of playing D&D, and I'm telling myself I wanted to go all my life to Gen Con once. It's the thing you read in the magazines, so damn well at 15 you can't afford it, right? So someday. And I'm talking to these guys, and like, Gen Con, it's not really a D&D or RPG con anymore. It's more everything else. And you got to go to some other ones if you want to get that real formerly Gen Con experience out of it,
Yeah, well, my first Gen Con was 2016, so I don't know the old school Gen Con, but I do know that there are more games to sign up for than anyone could ever do in 4 days.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
So I don't imagine if you're there just to do gaming that you're going to be that you're going to have much downtime. You're going to be able to game as much as you want. But everything I hear from some of the other conventions, at least pre-pandemic, it was it sounds like they have a cozier feel, more personal interaction with the celebrities, things like that. But as far as the conventions go, I mean, Gen Con, aside from the lines for badge pickups and everything, that from what I heard, that didn't go so well this time. But I've done the big conventions in the UK and in Germany, and Gen Con. Well, UK Games Expo is very gaming oriented, but like the Spiel in Germany, it's like there's so much other stuff. Like Lego would have like a huge stand there and everything. So it's not necessarily for the gamers, although there are tons of role-playing companies exhibiting board games out the ass.
Right.
It's Spiel, but also a lot of stuff that's just general family fun stuff that doesn't seem gaming related at all. But Gen Con seems, it still has like the cosplayer booths and the gaming lifestyle stuff, but it still seems like really focused on gaming. It has not turned into like a San Diego Comic-Con situation.
That's what I was worried about.
Nothing like that. Nothing like that.
Just curious, James, how many languages do you speak?
I just speak the one. This is
Well, Finnish is like what, the third hardest language in the world to learn or something. I
yeah.
heard
When
it's nuts.
I first moved here, my first wife, she lived in Vasa, and Vasa is like the one because Finland, both Swedish and Finnish are official languages, and Vasa is the place that, at least at the time, I don't know about now, where it was like most evenly divided. The populations were most even who spoke Finnish, who spoke Swedish.
Mm.
The town was so ridiculous that if you were a Swedish speaker in Vasa, you wanted to go to the stores that would greet you in Swedish, and if you were Finnish speaking, you want to go to the stores that greet you in Finnish. And then when these people interacted on the streets, they speak English to each other. And so I'm moving there. My first wife's native Swedish speaker, and so in the integration school that I went to, which was a Swedish speaking school, they were trying to teach me Swedish and Finnish at the same time.
Oh, geez.
Now Swedish is like less than 5% of the total population of Finland are Swedish speakers, but it was close to 50% in Vasa, in that area. But it was basically like, okay, this is my wife's language, my in-laws' language, but it's like 5%. Why am I learning this? But then I had like no support for the Finnish because while my teacher, definitely fully fluent in Finnish, still spoke it in the cadence of this is a second language. So learning Finnish from her didn't teach me how the Finnish sounded out in the world. And then getting no support at home because they didn't speak Finnish. And my ex's family, there was some of the people that were proud not to speak Finnish because like the Swedish minority has their own political party here, and it's a very strange situation. So I ended up not learning either language like very well at all. I can read Finnish like decently as long as it's not too complicated, but Swedish it has enough similarity to English that I can keep up on short statements, but when people start like having actual conversations with the slang and the long run-on sentences because you don't speak like you properly write, I just get lost instantly.
Looks like you got if you speak Texan, it looks like you're getting an invite by Bad Mike to North Texas RPG Con, Dallas, Fort Worth. Looks like you're getting an invite to be a special guest. In June, we need you, he says. And I think he wants you, by that, he means Dallas, Fort Worth in June. He wants you to bring the cold weather from Finland over with you. Because I was there once in July, and I thought I died and went to hell. But yeah, was that hot?
So yeah, special guest. Does that mean you're paying airfare?
We're negotiating now, huh?
You'd probably get the hotel. I don't know if you could get the airfare, but we'll have to trust,
I gotta say, you buy me a plane ticket, I'll go fucking anywhere. But that's the tricky part, living where I do.
Yeah.
I mean, so now, if you were going to go to an old school convention that would be, I guess, closer to Michigan, you'd have Gary Kahn and in Game Hall, and Game Hall is run by an American who has German heritage, Alex Kammer. So it runs like clockwork. So that one never screws up. Alex runs. You can see the German in him when he does that. So, but they might be options for you too. The Game Hall is about, I think, probably around 3,500 to 4,000 attendees. Not huge by Gen Con standards, but actually not bad at all. And Gary Con, I think 2,500 last time. I don't quote me on that for sure. Pandemic screwed up the numbers, I am sure. And it's a bucket list place. So that's the old Playboy Resort out in Lake Geneva, where that one's held. So, but you have a question, by the way.
Yes.
Any novels that inspired the 1600s era setting for Lamentations?
The Solomon Kane stories.
All right.
Because one of the like keynote put a pin on this concepts for wanting to use this setting is Solomon Kane is cooler than Conan the Barbarian.
I would agree.
Cooler, but less
Yeah.
of a badass, maybe.
Yeah. The setting
I don't
helps
know.
so much, man. If you read it, it really does.
And especially the stuff that the some of the backup features from Savage Sword of Conan, the original work that was done for Solomon Kane there. I mean, some of that stuff is like, oh God, I don't remember the names of the stories. I've got the reprints they did, 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah, I bought the
in
first two.
Yeah.
they're pretty good.
There's the werewolf story there was just, it seems so much deeper and like really like a horror story rather than most of what the main Conan features were, and that was so good. Or the one, I'm going to spoil another one, where he thinks he's helping a child escape a mad killer, and then the hook of the story is that the child is the killer, and Solomon Kane was unwittingly helping him with the victims
murders.
later on. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that was such a so the original Solomon Kane stories, there's not very many of them. That's one thing, but what other people extrapolated from it's like for Conan the Barbarian, the original Robert E. Howard works are the best.
Agreed.
Nobody did adaptations that touched what Howard did with Conan himself, but Solomon Kane not only had the much different setting and the much different atmosphere, but it seemed to be, because there's so little of the source material and it really wasn't as well developed, what people did with it excited my imagination more. And maybe that was some sort of subliminal, I can adapt this sort of thing too, and not just be, just this pale bullshit version of it.
So, what was your review of the 2009 movie for Solomon Kane?
Oh God, it was garbage. It was
Well, I guess we know.
because the whole thing was like, oh, there's an army that's gathered in England, and only Solomon is like, wait, whoa. In that time period, if there's because like I know too much of. Like, Solomon Kane is set in the real world. So if this sort of thing was happening in the real world, it's like, no, this would happen and this would happen. And, this isn't the barbarians or storming. It's like, that's not the world. It's like a Conan story, except, oh, yeah, this guy's, it's like, no, you fucked it up. Just the whole basic plot to begin with was just no.
By the way, Bad Mike says talk to him about the cost of airfare. So that's a positive sign.
Okay.
Bad Mike is one of the two that runs North Texas. So.
God, am I going to end up in freaking Texas? Well, okay.
You will end up Texas in June.
In June,
no doubt. Yeah.
Coming from the land of ice and snow.
Last year wasn't that bad. The year before, the year of COVID, I don't know what it was like, but 2021 and 2022 weren't that bad. 2019, I thought I was going to die. Okay, and I'm from New York City. I know what heat is like occasionally, like. But when it's like, oh, we're nearing 110, no, I don't know what heat is like anymore.
Indianapolis in August feels like a furnace, so
Yeah, I can see that.
If you're gonna do it this year, I think this is gonna be my first year. If all goes well, I'll be there this summer. It'd be kind of cool, man. Have a beer in person. That'd be nice.
Yeah, I have a question about the Finnish language. Does it really sound kind of like Elvish, Tolkien's Elvish language?
From what I understand, and again, I don't know if this is true or just some bullshit that people say. I think that Elvish was sort of patterned after Finnish.
Huh.
So I think the similarities aren't accidental, but I may just be going off of internet bullshit, not actual fact there. So fact check me on that one.
We don't do fact checks.
No, we don't. Rob does fact checks. The rest of us we just do the Gestalt thing.
Now
that's really
I'm going to take us back a little bit to the future of the RPG game industry, whatever. And I'm going to ask you a question that has been asked. It's been asked in different ways over the last couple of weeks, especially. It's becoming topics. I know Rob and I have talked about it. I have had people in our Discord server today earlier ask me not what Rob thinks, sorry, what we're going to talk about here with Lamentations and James is, what do you see when it comes to the industry as an effect of AI art, the artificial intelligence art? Because your material, what you publish, and I will say this as a fact, nobody comes close to nabbing the artists that you come and grab, and the work that is presented. Every cover is striking. The internal art is consistent and atmospheric, and yet we're looking at AI art. And the last month or so has been the talk of the industry. So people want to know.
Okay. The main problem with AI art is, as I understand how it works, and again, I don't know how accurate this is that part of how it works is it's drawing from existing sources. So at what point are you really just ripping off someone else's work because whatever keywords you plug into the engine, it's using someone else's actually creative stuff as the basis for what it's messing around with? I mean, that's something that
It's like a weird collage, basically.
yeah. So it's like,
it's not a. I'm sorry. It's not a collage. What it does, in this very narrow sense, it learns the way we do. In this case, what it's emulating, the algorithm's actually a little bit more general purpose than art. It's used for text and speech as well. It learns the same way a human does with pattern recognition. In other words, if you have a person who can draw, but the only thing they ever saw was Picasso, I mispronounced that. I butchered that. I'm sorry. Picasso. If the only thing they ever saw is Picasso, then when you look at what their output, it's going to probably look like Picasso, right? Well, if you get somebody who's like, okay, I saw this, I saw Da Vinci, I saw Van Gogh, saw all these artists, and I've learned all these things, I went to art school, then their style is going to be kind of their own, even though if you really dig into it, you'll probably find some favorite elements that they learned from other artists and made it their own, right? I mean, that's what every artist, I mean, that's what I do in my writing from time to time. So that's what this algorithm does. They have a library of truth. They have a library of thousands of images that they scraped off the internet. But then they train the software on that library, and then that library is not used anymore. They have this data, okay, this database of rules basically to tell them how things relate, all these patterns relate at a very, very deep level. And then when you type in your keyword, it goes through there. And in this case, when it gets to this point, it's like your random monster generator, except instead of just, I don't know, how many tables you have, 30 or 40? This has thousands of tables and thousands of rules it's using to generate the image. So the problem you run with using AI software is if you tell it to say, I want to draw this painting of an orc warrior in the style of Salvador Dali. I mean, it's just the same problem if you ask a regular human artist that would draw something in the style of Salvador Dali. There is a point where a human artist will come too close to the original artist's style, and they are being, that's a problem in copyright, especially for more recent artists. Other artists copying other artists who happen to be the popular artists at the moment. I mean, I hope that and to go any deeper, you have to understand how the algorithm works. And
no deeper.
I've been doing tech support long enough that is not a conversation for this podcast.
Yeah, and then the other thing with the AI art is like, okay, let's say it works. Let's say that a publisher can get good art, usable art, publishable art from these AI sources. from what I understand, what a lot of other publishers do, especially the big publishers, is that when they conceive of a product, they know how many pages it's going to be, they know how much it's going to cost, and so so all of their art is done on a budget based on the cost. What I do is I get a project together, see how much it costs, and then do my pricing based on that. How much does the product have to cost based on the costs that go into it, printing and art. So in my case, if I use AI art, the cost, the retail price of my stuff would go down because that's not a cost. I mean, that
Right.
sucks for artists that aren't getting whatever their money they're getting. But from my point of view, it's like, okay, my costs come down, so the price of the books would come down. I'm just wondering if there are other publishers that are just saying, oh, cool, we get to make more profits. And that would be shitty.
I would guess that's going to be the way for many. And as I understand it, AA art, for the most part, is not copyrightable. So the art that you create and publish with can literally be scraped up pixel for pixel and used by somebody else.
Yeah. Copyright Office will not copyright any art that's not generated by a human. If it was drawn by something procedural, like computer software, then you can't copyright it. And it says you can go right to the website, download the circular. In the United States, has to be created. If it's a picture taken by an animal, it can't be copyrighted. If it's something drawn by a random computer generator, even if something as sophisticated as these new algorithms, you can't copyright it. But here's the other thing, James. Right now, the current state of art is you always have to do post-processing on it to get usable images out of it, because it has, even though it's processed thousands of images and has noticed that humans have two eyes, it doesn't understand what an eye is like a human artist.
Yeah.
So when you randomly generate an image, sometimes your eyes are like out of whack.
Oh yeah.
I mean, if you stand at a distance, it has potential. And if you were making something surreal, then it might be perfect. That's how the artist won the contest at the state fair, because the art he went in and he entered it as a science fiction surreal pieces, and it was good enough for that.
Yeah.
But if you're talking about something like you do, or like what I want for my books, the raw output is not enough. I mean, I tried using it to generate some landscape, and when I examined it and blew it up and printed it the size I do, you can tell that the buildings are off. Like there's always something little. I would have to put in a couple hours on the image in order to make it acceptable.
That seems more acceptable for James's setting than anybody else I know, though.
Yeah, because the AI art I've seen are people make posts in the LOTFP Facebook group, just saying, "Oh, look at these posts I made based on this," and it is rather surreal, like nightmare landscape, sort of thing, and that fits. But yeah, most everything that where it's supposed to look real, I haven't seen that yet, but that's just a technology issue. That's going to be coming tomorrow for all we know.
If you're interested, James, there's a guy on Drive-Thru called Kent David Kelly.
Yeah.
And he's spamming his storefront with AI.
He's got a lot of stuff, yeah.
But to his credit, he has a $10 book, a PDF, of explaining exactly how he does it. And I haven't bought it yet, but I read the preview, and there are steps to do what he does. He just doesn't take the raw output. He has to do additional work. So if you want to get educated on that there's somebody who published something that's relevant to the RPG world.
Oh yeah, that makes me think. It's like, what if I'm trying to hire an artist and they're foisting off edited AI art, but then charging me like they did the whole
like they did it themselves. How would you ever know? Yeah. It's true.
Yeah, I at first when I heard this whole ruckus about AI art, I would scoff. It's like a freaking tool. Get over it. It's a tool like we've been. I mean, does the fact that somebody has a syntax to draw with, are we going to criticize them because they have a syntax versus the poor guy who has to use real brush and paints? You know, but people don't realize that the brushes in Adobe Paintbrush are a mini form of AI. Those brush strokes that they made, they developed through AI, an earlier version of it, but so that gives you the natural brush stroke when you actually use the tool.
What is
And, and but then it occurred to me that the person making AI art is more productive than a person doing it by hand. I mean, they get more done in less time.
Right.
So it's not fair to sell them those pieces in the same storefront as the human drawn art. You need a separate storefront, a separate category that's clearly just AI art, and then the human drawn art. Because I was doing some searches through art the other day for one of my projects, and at the top level, I ran into AI art. AI art. Well, how do I get there? What if I'm looking. I'm lucky. I'm looking for black and white line art drawing. If I was looking for a colored uh, a color piece, I would be totally screwed because it's flooded with AI art, and I don't want that right at the moment.
How much of a
So,
difference is AI art when you're thinking about this in terms of just a guy sitting at home and I got a game in an hour and shit at the fan and I didn't get prepared. So instead of drawing the map, I'm Googling, Roll20 dungeon map cultists temple, right? And I'm just yanking shit off of there, right? And then trying to find something I can run in a game that I ain't populated with some bullshit. And if you look at an AI art, in terms of the ability to use anybody's art anymore, you're losing value. You know what I'm saying? You're losing it. It's not a Matt Jackson map. It's not a Picasso painting that you're going to put in there. It's not Scrap Princess's thing. It's like you're losing something from that. I think. You have this inner swap ability between art. You could for a couple bucks pop in something. Boom! Out comes a map. Out comes a picture. Out comes a creature. Whatever the hell it is. But
yeah,
I think you're losing the personal touch there.
well, what I've seen nobody uses it to generate a map because the AI art is an idiot in that regard. No
For
better
now.
than a
For now,
random.
Rob. For now.
Well,
Give it
it's
time.
going to have to. They're going to have a next generation of AI that
Yeah.
understands concepts, and they don't have that yet.
Yeah.
Anyway, but what people do use it for is quick and dirty illustration. So they'll say, "Give me a swamp at midnight. Look at 8 images. Pick that one and present to that player." So it does look. So what if it does look a little surreal? It's close enough. It's good enough for just to throw up on Roll20.
That's the scary thing because I have plenty of good enough maps from that I've Googled and yanked into Roll20. And then are we going to have a good enough art? Or is that acceptable? Is that a thing? You know what I mean? Do we have any more artists anymore? And they're
Well, I
writing.
tell you right now, people
I don't know.
don't. People. I mean, it's not. To find a piece of art with a specific subject that's just sitting there on the internet, it's kind of hard. I had a
Yeah.
friend, Dwayne, Dwayne again, Dwayne, who was a genius at it. But when I tried it, I couldn't get a quarter of the results he could. Somehow he managed to find the perfect piece for it. But with the AI generator, you can use the keyword to get a lot closer. But it's not suitable for anything professional.
Yeah. Give it time, Rob. Climbing the mountain, though, he's going to have a question up here for like 10 minutes. James, let's see. James keeps talking about people getting ripped off. But to what degree is it acceptable for an innovator to hold back a genre setting or style because of founder's syndrome? Second part. When does someone say, okay, I'm done gatekeeping this thing. It's time to let it go?
Oh, when I was talking about getting ripped off is if you're using like someone's actual image that they've done that's being used inside of basically altering something that actually exists, not doing something that looks like that style. I mean, I mean, I've done for publication, told artists, say, copy that guy's style because I wanted it to evoke that guy. Like, what's the example? Like Jack Kirby. It's not like I can go hire him, but
Right.
having Kirby art, that's a certain atmosphere. So if you tell an artist, oh, do it like Jack Kirby would have, like Broodmother Sky Fortress has a lot of that in it, and it's like, so yeah, I don't have a problem with that kind of thing, but I can't just scan in some old Jack Kirby art and then put a different smiley face on it and say, okay, that's now original art.
Wait a minute, wasn't the question more about the fact that you started out as a weird horde guy, and now, like you said, Monty Cook is doing a weird horde? Is that what you meant, climbing the mountain?
I think he meant something else entirely. I don't know.
Yeah,
Just maybe clarify climbing the mountain.
Yeah.
I think he saw a founder's syndrome. I'm guessing as to what the hell that means. Is it the founder of the thing doesn't want to let his prize go and let it? Like, are you saying James should have an OGL or something? I don't know. I don't know what that.
Well, I mean, I know I was one of the first people to do Sandbox, but I am not the most. Actually, I am not the most well-known guy who does Sandbox campaigns. Some other guys who is far more productive than me, like Kevin Crawford. I mean, all his books lend themselves to the Sandbox. He's an order of magnitude, has at least one or two order of magnitude greater reach. And there's is it Red Tides, Red Sands?
Isn't that also Kevin Crawford?
I thought it was too. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Climbing the mountain. If you could clarify the question, what do you mean by founder syndrome? What are you trying to get at? I'm not quite sure, but
sort of like when Halloween came out in '78, I think it was, and popularized the slasher movie. Suddenly, the '80s were flooded by slasher movies. It's like copying styles I don't have a problem with. I mean, I could understand if John Carpenter looked at all those and went, "Oh, you grumpy," and it's like, I didn't invent the weird, so I may be annoyed that Monty Cook, because I can't imagine. My problem is I can't imagine Monty Cook really going for the throat with his weird.
No.
I imagine that it's going to be some sort of watered down, crowd pleasing thing, and and again, I haven't looked at it, so I might be completely wrong about that. But that's my assumption. I'm reacting to that assumption. It's like, I don't care that other people do something weird, but just go full on with it. Don't go half-ass.
Yeah.
Don't be like, oh yeah, this is going to be sort of strange. It's like, no, go full fucking weird or get out.
It's funny because you're probably, how many people as individuals set up their own company, and the company is for the most part them and people they have under them. You, Monty Cook, I can't name too many other people. Goodman is beyond that. Swords and Wizardry, those guys are beyond that, I think, a little bit at this point. It's more of a company. But a James Raggi LotFP game is one thing. A Monty Cook game is another thing. You both have your own thing going on. You're both supporting yourself with your business, and you took radically different approaches. You're just balls to the wall, and he's like, I'm going to please the most people as much as I can and try to sell this, in my opinion, plain ass bullshit. But that's it's interesting how you have such a different approach on things, and yet you're both still chugging along there. Yeah. God. Alchemist class in LotFP win.
There is development along those lines. I don't want to say too much so my ideas don't get ripped off. But it's just a matter of taking the outline and actually writing it, and that has to be extensively play tested. For adventures, I'm just satisfied playing it through and saying, okay, that can be successfully navigated. Okay. Because the play, because LotFP adventures aren't all about delivering a specific experience of, a specific sequence of events. So trying to play test it so all groups will have the same experience is not even desirable. It's just like, can this work? Yes. Okay. If it turns into a complete clusterfuck for an individual group, well, that's not a problem. I mean, I find it
Right.
amusing when players don't go in the door, and I'm supposed to have a problem that the whole thing collapses on it. It's like there has to be there has to be options. The style of adventure where it's like this is the prepackaged experience that we're giving you is like not the magic thing to me. To me, it's like, okay, here's this setup, and nobody knows what the fuck's gonna happen afterwards. So yeah. So I guess that's a design philosophy. But when you're doing like a rule pack, like if you're like an alchemist class, and you're expecting this to, hoping that this becomes a regular part of somebody's game, that does need a little more attention and care to make sure shit's working the way it's supposed to be working.
I asked you this a long time ago, years ago, about you got the great quality products, you got the book, you got the game system, this and that, and I think I was in the context of I was using LTP as my default old school game. I wasn't playing the style of game that your modules. I was just using it as a cool BX, like a lot of people use old school centrals now. You know what I mean? It's sort of the thing. And so I was like, why don't you just publish modules? You make a lot more money if they weren't like, and you open the door and everything dies and the world explodes. You know, just something a little different, like that would appeal more to the masses. And at the time, you're like, fuck that. No, I'm never going to do that. That's not what I put out. And I know a couple of years ago, shit got harder for you. We're not going to get into any of that. And did you consider that then? Did you consider sort of crossing over and say, you know what, if I just put out this really cool module that's going to appeal to more people who, you know, in the old school style, just to get me through? Did you think about it?
Not really, because number one, could I do it and have it? I'm worried about it seeming genuine. Like, I don't know if anyone on the consumer end gives the first fuck. But it's like, this is what we do. And if like, I don't know, if things are that bad, I can just get a job cleaning toilets.
Yeah.
And that way I'm not sacrificing or compromising the vision.
No,
you know, and you know why it's like this
rather clean shit than put out shit. I get it.
When we operate at our level, my observation is that everybody who operates, even though you're at least one or two orders in magnitude more business than I do, James, but still, what sets us apart than, say, Wizard is authenticity. You're getting our creative vision in our product. That's what people buy if they like what we do.
There's no compromises involved in this. If you're like Nicholas says in his promo piece, Monty says, imagine if your orcs had purple spots. Didn't seem weird enough.
Oh, jeez.
So
is that can't be an actual quote. That sounds like bullshit to me. I can't even imagine that.
Okay, I am going to do the research on that.
We knew you would, Rob.
Yeah, there goes.
I'm adding words to our. By the way, guys, Matt Jackson has put together a bingo card.
Bingo card for Rob.
Most of them are for Rob's things, and I've added Dwayne. I've added, zines I think are going to be on the bingo card, and research is now on the bingo card. So we'll have a full-fledged bingo card, so you can all play bingo with this as we do our podcast. LARPing takes several spots at the bingo card.
Yeah,
you said it, not me.
I did.
So what I hear you guys saying is you're saying James couldn't do like a Radiant Citadel kind of thing, or
Yeah.
No.
He could do it. He just wouldn't do it.
No.
Exactly. I mean, if that's his problem, like not being his solution is not to go vanilla.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not going to solve his problem with that, because I mean, I can't imagine James or you putting out something that would be your fan base would be like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And I know you said you didn't want to get into things, but I don't think the content is the problem, because the content wasn't a problem before.
Yeah.
There were outside the content problems.
Yes.
And I don't think that's going to be solved by watering down the content.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. So, I was just thinking in terms of shit, I got to pay the fucking bills. You know what I mean? Would you put out something to pay the bills this month and then go insane because you hate yourself for it?
Why would that pay the bills any better? Why would that be more successful?
Broader base.
I'm not getting that. I mean, are the normies that don't know me going to be fooled, or
Right.
are they
Yeah,
are they
that's true.
suddenly going to hear that, oh, most of Lamentations is this dark, disgusting shit, but let's all gather around this one thing because it's not.
It's got unicorns and vanilla ice cream. Look, and James put it out.
Yeah.
People are still going to expect James to have the James twist.
I still wouldn't trust the unicorn nor the vanilla ice cream if James put it out, really. You know?
Is it Old Gods of Appalachia?
No, it's a new thing, right? I couldn't find it either. We had a friend of ours.
Old Gods of Appalachia was one that looked very interesting to me until I started actually reading more into the Kickstarter and realized it no longer looked interesting to me because it doesn't seem like it's going to be authentic to the setting. I never watched or listened to the podcast serialization that the serial play that they did, and I think that's what you talk. I think that is that is one of them that's out there that's trying to go for the weird thing set in the Appalachian Mountains, and yet but it's going to be like a twist on Cthulhu in the Appalachian Mountains, I guess, with Native American things thrown in. I listen. I don't write this shit. Thank God.
Planebreaker?
Ken was just talking about this in our other Discord chat. He was asking about this thing, and I just flat out said no because it's Monty Cook, so fuck it, you know.
Mike found it, by the way.
Oh yeah.
Did your players stumble on an ogre's den? Make it a weird ogre's den. Maybe the ogre collects animal skulls. They are everywhere on every shelf and surface. Or the ogre has a strange skin condition. Or the ogre that gives it bright purple blotches. Or they keep a gong they ring every time they hit an opponent.
This is the stupidest bullshit. Is this real? This is it?
Is this real? Yeah, I can't
believe I've seen it.
I'm rolling the
Kickstarter.
Mike, send me a
there's Kickstarter. Oh, seriously, that's real.
Mike can't post the link.
Retarded.
Mike, send me the link on Facebook because
I'll post the link in the.
You have it. You have it, Rob?
Yeah.
So that's what Monty Cook or his staff or whoever wrote this thing. That's what they think is weird. I mean, that's real. That's
no. Okay. I'm
look.
I don't want to defend Monty Cook in this regard, but it's more gonzo than weird.
Yeah. Okay. So
they're calling it weird.
But that's not even gonzo.
That's not even gonzo.
That's just stupid.
I've got a couple of I think they're amusing Monty Cook stories.
Do tell.
Yeah. First one was UK Games Expo, probably 2015. Might have been 2014. It was when I had just gotten the text from Job from Towers 2. And it had all the really just strange guar shit in there. The death fuck magic and the and I was so excited. I mean, just so excited because this was just like really going for it. There is no no compromise. So I'm reading this on the plane and I'm so psyched about it that when I'm going in for setup at the UK Games Expo that year, guests of honor that year were Monty Cook and Shanna Germain, I think her name is.
Yeah.
And so they're there, and I end up with them by the hotel elevator. And I become that guy. Oh, I got to tell you about this new thing. I got blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And just the most vile shit that excites me that I think is hilarious. And I just imagine, what
did he faint?
Yeah, no, they didn't faint. They were very patient with me there. And then there was another time after Gen Con 2017, I think it was, because that was my ex-wife that I brought with me there. I think that was the one. It's going to be so embarrassing. It was my ex-girlfriend's. But anyway, so we're in the airport, Indianapolis, after Gen Con. It's another gamer gathering, everyone waiting for their planes out. And we end up sitting right across from Bonnie and Shauna. And so I just look at, my ex. It's like, all the stuff I do with Lamentations, that's who we're rebelling against.
Yeah. That's right. I mean, looking at this shit, it's like a bunch of stupid ass random tables. If you're posting stuff from it there, Eric. I mean, it's just dumb shit. It's everything I hate about a certain type and style and play of RPG. There's nothing about where the orcs take a shit in any of his games. I guarantee it. Right.
That's what it's missing. The
if you ever play
orcs
with
toilet.
Joe, that's the thing.
Oh,
If
yes.
your map doesn't have the shitter in it, you're doomed.
It's gotta make sense. Who would design some bullshit that looks this stupid, that makes no sense, and spend the money to lay it out like that and hire an architect and an engineer, and nobody would? It makes no sense. And the fucking thing that makes less sense is that this guy got 3,194 backers to raise $317,000 for this piece of shit.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
So
well,
there's
that many people never thought of an ogre with a skin condition before. They all just thought the ogres had perfect fucking skin, and they were like, "Whoa."
Well, see, but now an ogre
Smooth.
with skin condition and Lamentations would have leprosy.
And it
All
would kill you.
It would
Yeah.
kill. It would be a long-term death. Not right.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you kill the ogre, but you actually contract the leprosy.
Or even worse, your entire genetic line comes out with some goddamn mutation for all eternity. You know
that too. I mean that is weird. This is not. I don't know if this is even Gonzo. It's just
that's stupid. It's dumb.
It's just details that you should be putting in your game regardless.
And it's just dumb random table results that make no sense. You know?
No. Well, I mean, again, guys, you got to remember a lot of these things are not written for us. We have like a history of decades of gaming. I think these are geared more for your newer gamers in some ways, and that, and then you can see with that one too, they were gearing towards a lot of like
people with the same
online stuff and everything.
Yeah, you know what? You're right. This is something. So I want to do my real play online and get it monetized, and I'm going to have these random. Hey, guess what? Your waiter's throwing food at you. What do you do? Oh,
right.
Yeah. If your hair is the same color as these book covers, this is for you. That's really
you see, just from the examples given here, assuming they're real, because I know the links are being given and the receipts are being
I'm looking at it,
produced, but I still have a hard time believing that someone actually wrote that. It's weird, but it sounds like it's being made for children.
Speaking of
not inexperienced gamers, but children.
Right.
Speaking of which, what do you think of 5.5, James? You following any of that bullshit? Speaking of games written for children.
No, I don't follow really much of what Wizards of the Coast does at all. It's
really
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, great! We're going to be shown. Yes, Jim. You must face reality. This is what people are making. Going to make $1 million off of.
Getting there,
Oh shit! It's 300,000.
From interesting to Gonzo and everything in between.
Yeah.
Oh my God! Come on, this art sells it, man. That
could
be art.
If your hair matches the book cover, get it.
You see, I understand that my tastes are a bit niche. That I know that, when I have the opportunity, used to have the opportunity, because as far as I was banned from it. I probably still am, from participating in Free RPG Day.
You got banned from that, James?
How does that possible?
Are you serious?
Yeah. There was.
I didn't know you got banned.
Okay, what happened was, in 2017, I did Vaginas
Are Magic, right?
And that was a hardcover free RPG.
I know, it was the best thing they had in there by far.
And it's a true statement.
So what happened was, when I was presenting Eldritch Cock the next year.
There you go.
And that's got Eldritch Cock has the best product description text ever.
Oh, you got it? I don't have that. Read it off, man. What do you have?
Read it. Oh, okay. Well, wait. Let me. Yeah,
you can't lead up to that and not read it now at this point.
Okay. Oh God. Okay. Yeah, but now it's okay. Hold on. Where is
this going to demonetize us?
Dude, as soon as James was going to come on here, I knew we lost all hope of monetization. Just his book titles alone are going to demonetize us. Forgetting.
I think they do it automatic because we get demonetized as soon as Eric pushes a button. I think
hold on. I'm finding it on drive-through if it'll ever open up.
Okay. Yeah, someone else read it. It's I never understood how authors can do readings of their own books. Someone else read that cover.
Here, hot cock action. Do other Magic?
Hold on. It's hot cock action, but there's a picture of a rooster with a wizard hat and magic wand on fire. So that.
Oh, we gotta show the visual, Eric. Come on.
I listen. All right, I'm going to try to show the visual. Let's see if this. I think I can probably show the visual and then go.
See, Rob, these are the screen shares we like to see. Rooster with hats and you know.
So the Eldritch cock, it's like a joke. It's Eldritch cock, yeah.
All right.
And the back cover text, it's a picture of that rooster on fire. So when it says hot cock action, it's that rooster on fire. So it's a joke. it's not.
Do you suffer performance anxiety as a referee? Do your players complain about the abbreviated delivery of your cantrips? Well, fret no more, for you hold in your hands the big one, the A5 blue pill designed to help you get over the hump of thought. I can't pronounce that one. Photomedullary dysfunction. This manual of, damn you, James, tumescent magic is designed to satiate the cosmic desires of those with even the most discriminatory taste. Avoid getting into the pickle of slipping boring sorcery into your game. Avoid the commonplace boner of not having an unusual new spell in hand during a sticky situation. And avoid premature conjurations, all with the help of this one weird tome. Like Vaginas and Magic before, James Raggi IV, Eldritch Cock will thrust the powers of measureless wonder onto their magical members.
Did Drive-Thru make you put this in the adult category?
Yeah,
yeah. There's nudity inside, so it had
This
to go.
title has
category.
adult content. Yeah.
Yeah. Reproduce in
awesome.
the wildest moments you've ever imagined. Bringing them off in your game will be simple after injecting these meaty incantations into your campaign repertoire. Inside this 8.5 inches of hardcovers are 22 penetrating new spells that can be used with any traditional role-playing rules, guaranteed to help you become the cock of the walk, have the stroke in your local community, and finish off the curse of bad, boring wizardry forever. Folks, if you're listening to this, I'm going to put the link. It is fucking pay what you want. Pay something, but it is effectively gratis.
That's awesome. And just watching James's face as we heard this for the first time was epic. James just heard 4 people plus his whole audience hearing this thing for the first time, and see that shit-eating grin right there. He had the whole fucking time we were reading that thing, man.
Right.
That's why going back to the mountain, walking Mountain Dew, whatever the hell your name was back there, he's not gonna fucking change. His shit's gonna die with him climbing the mountain. That he did answer his own question right there.
But when I submitted that for the 2018 Free RPG Day, and this one was going to be bigger because Vaginas Are Magic was hardcover, but it was all black and white interiors. This was going to be hardcover Free RPG Day, full color interiors.
Damn.
Wow.
And so I was told that once I submitted it, I was told that there was another publisher who didn't want me to participate, or they were threatening participation.
No shit. Who?
But I'd already put all this together and spent the money and everything. So what I had to do was submit a PDF of this so the other publisher, who I was never told who it was, would review it.
Are you serious?
And what ended up happening is I was told that, it's fine. They can do this year, but they can't participate. But I can't participate next year. And that's how it went. I mean, that's the shit I deal with.
Who the fuck has the balls enough to say I want to review some other guy's shit, or else I'm not going to participate?
But Jamie, that's what I think. Maybe in a way, that's what you should have put on the cover. Banned from Free RPG Day. Kind of thing. Then everybody wants to buy. It's like when they used to put the stickers on the CDs back in the.
Oh, that's how you know what to buy.
Everybody
I gotta admit, James, a lot of your stuff isn't my cup of tea, but this is so. I was laughing. You did a good job with it.
I mean, even the first Free RPG Day that I did with Better Than Any Man, I went all out, did a 90-page free adventure that no compromise inside with the words or the art. And there were, one of my favorite stories. I don't know why I like this story, since it's someone being a fucking idiot. People had to go like behind the game store and rescue the copies out of the dumpster because the game store people just threw them away.
Oh
Wow.
no!
And also with Better Than Any Man, this is back in 2013. Someone's looking at it on the table, and the game store employee's telling them, watch out for that one. That's all about killing children. And hearing that story is why I made the Doom Cave of the Crystal-Headed Children the next year, because if you're gonna, it's like no, Better Than Any Man is not an adventure about killing children. But if that's what you're gonna think, then okay, here's an adventure about killing children. Fuck you, people.
Double down, bitch.
I mean, it's the
All I want to
appeal
know,
of
was it a good adventure about killing children?
Was it a good adventure?
I think it was good.
I mean, he had Zarkowski write an adventure called The 1,000 Dead Babies. So,
Yeah.
come on. He didn't get any shit for it.
To me, when I was a kid getting into RPGs, they were products of your imagination.
Hell yeah.
Whatever you can imagine can happen in a game. Well, apparently there's a lot of people that can't imagine quite a bit. It's not that my imagination is spectacular. I was almost going to say, well, it sounds like I can imagine quite. No, it's that other people apparently can't imagine anything at all. I hate to say it like that, but just
it's true. It's true.
It's just.
Well, that's why Monty Cook's got $317,000 on his Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, what? And I don't understand, because I know, and this is a weird thing to bring up because I can't name any names. Like thank you guys for like appearing with me in a public place, because I talk to a number of people in the industry that always stress, don't tell people that I'm talking to you. That
Okay.
that my evilness is sticky, and they worry about their jobs if it's found out that they're friendly with me in any way. And that's how bad it is. And I get told about how scared people are in putting their stuff together, and not just scared at, are people going to like this, but are we going to get in trouble for this? And so let's take out things that'll get us into trouble. We gotta, and it's an insane thing. How do you create if that's what you're finally worried about?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of what I do when I started, well, not when I started exactly, but when I decided, okay, I can really do this full time. Well, if I'm going to do that, I'm going to go full on Grindhouse. I'm going to continue the fight that TSR gave up in the late 80s when they when they gave in to the Mad Mothers.
Oh, 2E, yes.
Yeah.
And so
No more demons. Yeah.
yeah, and it's like I thought I knew who the enemy was. And I thought, okay, yeah, them right-wing bastards, haha, I'm gonna show them. And it's like that's
Not the case.
That's not who's keeping me out of this. That's not who's preventing me from being here. That's not, and it's so weird. And it's, but I just don't understand. I don't understand. It's like, I understand if you don't like something, that's fine. The fact that like we're joking about how lame the Monty Cook weird thing shouldn't mean anything to the people who actually like it. Yeah. My problem is wanting to prevent the other visions from being present. It's like, I have a niche taste, and I'm going to appeal to people with niche tastes, but the people that are responsible for connecting products with customers shouldn't be saying, not you. Not you. That was basically the basis of my drive-through rant. My YouTube video. I don't know if you guys saw that a few months ago. when drive-through started announcing the new rules.
Oh,
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah, I do
there were
remember
a couple of rants on those new rules.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
shit.
and it's the main one is having vague rules. Well, I won't go to the full rant, but having vague rules that are not applied uniformly,
Yeah.
and then you're not supposed to, basically not supposed to talk about if they take action against you.
Mhm.
You can't really talk about that, or else
Right.
they'll consider that hostile marketing. Well, it's like, well, if you decide to basically tell people, no, this has to go, and then tell them to shut up about it, it's like, well, no.
Right.
Here's
Yeah.
look at we have Nicholas Stanoshek. Raji's greatest sin, according to some in the RPG industry, is paying his writers, artists, and editors so well that they expect to be paid fairly by others.
I've heard similar.
Me too. I've heard
And
that
that's
about you
weird.
too, man.
Look. When it came to that England project, I cried when I had to return the money to you because I really wanted to complete it because you were paying me so well to write it. But I can only define a third in that land, so I wasn't going to take your money and run. But damn
Right.
it, you work well with me on that. I appreciate your patience in that regard.
I mean, I know a lot of creatives in our corner of the universe, and I've always heard Raggy pays well, Raggy pays on time.
Yep.
I heard the same thing.
And I'll tell you the truth. I've heard major companies get slighted or worse complaints about them being late. The only other company I've heard positive about, in other words, if I hear nothing, I assume that they're close enough. The only other company I've heard positive about is Frog God Games, because Bill Webb pays right away. You submit within hours. Generally, he's on there, giving a payment out. But other companies, I either hear nothing or I hear negative. I'm not going to mention the companies I've heard negative about, but they are major companies, and usually the complaints are they don't pay on time. They don't pay on time. They don't pay on time. I mean, James.
Is that the Jameson Stone model or something like that?
I wasn't even thinking of Jameson Stone. I was thinking of some major publishers.
Right, some big guys, yeah.
Some big guys.
I can vouch for James. I don't know, James, if you remember, 100 years ago when you had one of your first Kickstarter, you contacted me about including some of my zines for I don't know what you call them, add-ons to your thing, the manor. And I got that check. I didn't think I was going to get paid for a while, and I got the check in the mail, and I'm like, holy shit, that was quick, So I can definitely vouch for that because I didn't expect that.
I do want to give some caveats to that statement, though. That there was a 6-month period in 2020 when I was in real trouble, and I was late in paying royalties to people. I'm caught up now, and I actually got to do royalties for the quarter this coming week. But there was a period where I was late with royalties in 2020, and then as far as being able to pay so well, I don't even think that's true. I mean, I'm not a large operation. I cut corners, and a lot of the reputation I have for paying well is for most of the projects that are written by other people. We have profit sharing that we're splitting the profits 50-50 or splitting if there's other people involved, So I'm making the same money they are off their projects. So when I do well, they do well, and if I'm not doing well, then they're not getting paid the big bucks. So just know that all the money when you buy stuff from me, it's not just all going in my pocket, and they've already been paid for their stuff. Not in most cases these days. It's
right.
You're putting money in everyone's pockets, and it's
you did a video about that, James. Was it last year, 6-8 months ago, about you wanted to do this new thing, this different way of looking at it, like a third, or whatever the hell it was. Did it ever pan out that people sign up for that and do it?
Yeah, there were a few, and it's
I was like, this is nuts, but I'm like, maybe you pull it off because James is nuts. He's crazy like a fox. He might pull that shit off,
Yeah, well, I find that writers are a lot more willing to work on royalties than artists, I've found. And so yeah, I found some, and there were a few, and oh boy, that hurts when it comes time for royalties. I was like, oh, I got to give back 2/3 of the money. Yeah.
That's good. So what's coming up now, man? What do you got coming out? What's the next thing? What's the next pimp yo shit? What's coming?
Okay, what's coming? Well, let's see. I'm trying to figure out. I'm wanting to do one more release cycle because with the shipping from Finland being as it is, it's more cost-effective shipping-wise to buy a bunch of books than it is to just buy them one at a time. Because if it's like if you're in the US and you buy one book from me, it's like 33 euros. I think that is what DHL is charging me to ship the one book.
Yeah.
Whereas, maybe 3 or 4 books, depending on the size, might be the same shipping cost.
Yeah.
So, that's why I tend to bunch things together instead of just, okay, this is done, this is out, this is done, this is out. So it looks like I'll have 3 new things out. But I don't want to say anything specifically since I have a very bad track record of producing the exact thing that will be coming out at an exact date. But I think
in other words, it will come out when it's done right.
Yeah, but what I'm hoping is for an early November go to press, and so it'd be available for sale in December, right before Christmas. But three brand new works, and I have penciled in 3 reprints of out of print things. Those numbers on both of those may change, hopefully more of each, but it just depends what's actually in and everything. Because one thing I found is that deadlines, I'm not even talking about me, I'm talking about other people, that deadlines are a complete joke. That anything that you tell people, if you don't tell people a deadline, you'll get things when the fuck ever. But if you tell people a deadline, you'll get things when the fuck ever plus apologies. So
you could put the deadline out 7 years just to try that technique. Couldn't resist that one.
That's that last shot.
That was
if you feel comfortable about this, what are the size of your print runs these days?
It depends on the project. It looks like for the adventures, because things have contracted a bit in the past few years. So I had been doing 2,000 print runs of of the things that go through distribution. I think for some of the adventures, because that old adage of adventures don't sell as well as supplements and things like that. That seems to be becoming more true over time for me. So for just like pure adventure things might be lowering the print run, but for major products, and there's still some in the works. Like I'm not going to have a reduced print run on the ref book when that's out, and there are a few larger supplements that are going to get my traditional larger print runs. But for some of the just adventures, maybe pare those down a bit. 48-page adventures, maybe 2,000 of them out there from a small publisher isn't the best business wise. I just have this thought that I don't know what the public likes. I don't know what's going to be a hit or not. So I want to print enough where it could be a hit, and then the supply is there. But that's
it's like the roulette table. Put your chips on a bunch of different numbers rather than 10 on one stack on one number.
Do you print on demand at all? After
I don't do any print on demand.
No.
I suppose I suppose I could with the soft covers, but the hard covers, like I just a couple weeks ago, I got this book about Finnish death metal. Rotting Ways to Misery is what it was called. And it's all about the early Finnish death metal scene. And it's a hardcover book. And I'm just looking at it and just looking, glue binding, and oh.
He's not even reading it. He's checking out the actual book
I'm
itself.
going to put this away now.
So print on demand hardcover books, I mean, I don't know how much I haven't looked into it in a while, but last I checked, they were not up to spec. I mean, I do everything. I put the bells and whistles in because these days, just getting the print version, that is the luxury version. You can
Right.
always go PDF. You can always pirate all this shit if you really want.
Right.
So if you're gonna produce a physical book, fucking produce a physical book. I think there's only one hardcover. I might be wrong. I think there might only be one hardcover I've ever done that wasn't thread sewn binding. That was because there was like extra stuff stuck in and they couldn't like thread sew a single there were technical reasons why I couldn't do it for that title. But it's like, okay, yeah, let's have the sewn binding every time because it's a fucking hardcover book, and let's do the best we can on it. And
Right.
and and all these things is like, yeah, they all cost a little more, but that
How about bookmarks? You ever consider putting bookmarks in there?
oh yeah, we've got bookmark ribbons and a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
I'm looking at them right now.
Didn't you send some books back, James, because they had like the wrong colored end papers on the inside too?
Oh yeah, I've done that before. Wrong colored end paper. Yeah, it was ironic because it was the 2014 printing of Death Frost Doom.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I couldn't
where
remember what it was for, yeah.
the end papers were supposed to be printed in black, and those were the maps. And what they did, for some reason, there was no reason for it. They printed it in like the old TSR
blue or something. Yeah,
and that was difficult because if I had released it like that, it's like nobody would have noticed, and they would have thought, oh, like classic Dungeons, but it's like that's not what it was supposed to be.
Yeah, I have one of his hardcovers here, and you can see it's sewn bounding.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. All those books are like pieces of excellence of how to do that stuff. Yeah, absolutely. They're all top quality. That's why it just amazes me from the free RPG day, because I mean you were giving away 25
sewn bound hardcovers in free RPG day, because it's just, well, if you're going to do it to, I mean, I am a small publisher, really, a very small publisher. There are very practical limits. There are all sorts of boundaries I have. But it's like, whatever you can do, fucking do it. It's I can't say I spared no expense, but every expense I can spare, it goes into the damn books.
Vernon Dito,
and it shows.
Print on demand is definitely good value and good results on soft cover, but that goes against everything James stands for.
Well, no, I mean it's. I mean, I've really, like at Gen Con, I debuted 4 booklets, stuff that. Yeah, so it's. I'm not necessarily against it, but then I say that because I've gotten some print on demand stuff and then soft cover, and it's like, yeah, the binding's going to be what the binding is, but you can tell that it was, you can tell it wasn't offset printing, because you could just tell the way the ink sits on the paper. It's like, okay, this is print on demand. This came off a laser printer,
right.
And it's just like it makes no difference. It makes no practical difference in how you use the book, but it just bugs me just thinking I know this could be done better. Yet here I am with a version that's.
I mean, those are the books you beat up too. You beat up the fucking softcover print on demand. Like I'm starting a 2E campaign. I'm looking over on my shelf to my right. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 2E players handbooks, 4, 5 Dungeon Master's Guide, and 3 monster manuals. And those are the basic ones, not the second 2E 2.5 one version, right? And they're beat to shit. But I don't want to beat them up during the 2E game. So I went on drive-through. I printed up some 2E revised soft cover, because they're the ones I'm going to be throwing around the game table. Here, look this up. I don't know what the hell this spell does. Throw it to the player, right? Or something like that. Or just taking it to the bathroom. Take a shit, read the book, right? It's the beat-up book that you could throw in your backpack and not care about. I look over to my right, and I got all your books on the shelf there. Nice and neat. Rob, you slept in this room just last weekend. You saw them. Nice and neat, organized. Nothing is on top of them. They're nice compressed. Nothing's leaning because those are the ones I take care of. The 2E book, I already got a bent cover, which I know is twitching Tim's eye right now. That there's
Oh yeah, don't start me on.
Yeah, but you
start me on fucking
you
books.
don't have to treat them precious. 'Cause I remember I wanted to test the binding. I'm not going to go searching for it now to display. But like Veins of the Earth, it's 300 something pages.
Yeah, looking at
And
it right
what I
now.
did is I just took the binding and just like bent the book totally backwards, so the covers are touching,
Oh,
and just took
you're
a
hurting
picture.
my feelings.
Exactly, but
cringy,
it's
dude.
like,
Oh.
but you know, you wave it around and the book stays intact. I think one of the
Sure.
reasons I have this attitude, we're gonna go real old school here. Those original Advanced Dungeons and Dragons hardcovers,
Oh, you can't
those
beat
had
it.
Yep.
like fucking iron binding. It's
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
Mine are
Just-
still intact from
They were
there.
like text.
My,
Yeah, 30
my deities and demigods is like stripped, but because of the binding, it's still intact.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Right.
35
Mine
years
too.
later, those books still hold up, even,
Yep.
you know, and those are books that have seen a lot of actual play. Those aren't
Oh,
just,
yeah.
read them and put them on
We've
the
had
shelf.
soda spilled
But-
down there. We've had
but-
the car run them over.
Yeah. But then I remember when buying Unearthed Arcana, and the pages started falling out of that
Yep.
immediately.
Sure.
1985, you know, just a few years later, and it's
Remember
like
the fucking errata? We had to buy the goddamn Dragon magazine that had the 2-page errata that we all taped in the back of an Unearthed Arcana. We had to cross-reference the goddamn thing.
Yeah.
Remember?
yeah, but
Piece of shit.
yeah, but just the fact that the book would fall apart in your hands. I mean,
Yeah.
this shit matters. The quality of this
Yeah.
shit matters, and
Agreed.
I know some of the stuff, you know, may not matter. Like if it's printed off the laser printer for print on demand, or, you know, it's like that really. But like the book quality, that stuff matters. It's
Yeah.
I don't want to hear, you know, 10 years from now, yeah, I used to like Lamentations, but all the books fell apart because you made them more affordable. You know,
Dude, every time I go to the Lamentations area, I look whatever, I'll pull something out. I'd make it a point to touch the Carcosa book. I just want to touch it. You remember how that felt? You know, guys, you know, it's cool. It's fucking.
Yeah.
I don't know what you made it out of. What material is that? I have no fucking idea. It just feels
Oh,
good
God.
to the touch.
yeah.
You know?
Well, that although sometimes there are some there's some gloss materials that will stick to that.
Oh,
I
really?
think when I go
Good
into
to
the
know.
printer and I look at the cover materials, I mean, you know, manufacturers send them just all sorts of shit. Use our cover materials in your
Yeah.
printing, and then they show it to me. So I think when I choose weird shit, I think half the time they've never used it before. They don't know how it works. They don't know if it's any good. They were just
Yeah.
like,
Right.
oh, you want that? Okay. And that's
Sucker.
yeah, like Frostbitten and Mutilated had a problem with the that was not my finest hour physical production wise. But then when I told the printer there was a problem, there were all sorts of practical issues, and why I just took the printing, you know, basically a discount in the printing, and then that's why that book is a lower price. There were practical reasons for not, you know, telling them to junk the 5,000 print run on that and
God.
Yeah.
and redo it. I mean, you know, so I can't say that I'm always, no matter what, you know, sometimes practical considerations do win out, but that like for that one is like they'd never used that before. They'd never
Yeah.
used that material before, and now they know not to use it again. Or like the Death Frost Doom, the current version that's got the like velvety cover. We had to you know, after the Frostbitten and Mutilated situation, we had, you know, made it a point to test different, you know, because that's got this velvet material with the hot foil metallic foil pressed on it. And so we had to go through several brands and versions of the foil to see what will actually bond to the material, so we don't have another shit. You know, that costs money to do, because the
Right.
printer's not doing that for free.
Yeah.
And so it's like, yeah, well, okay, you know, we had a problem. We took the easy way out last time, but it's like, okay, now we know that sort of thing, how that works. Let's have to be prepared and do it right this time. And so yeah, that's been out a few years now, that version, and the foiling and everything. It all works. The only problem with the fuzzy Death Frost Doom version is at conventions. I always have to tell people, when they're buying it, don't take the top copy because absolutely everybody that passes by wants to touch the damn thing. So who knows what's on?
Now, how many covers you had at this point for Death Frost Doom? One of your older modules, 6, 7?
No. I think it's no, because let's see. First, there was the version that I just printed off the computer, and then I used a local copy shop to print booklets. That was the same cover art, although the formatting was a little different. Then there was the 2014 version, the Yannick Bouchard nighttime graveyard scene, and then there was the one that's just the text on the velvety cover material. And then I've got a hardcover throwback version, but that's using the original cover art, but that's in hardcover. So yeah.
I recently, you guys know Astonishing Swordsman and Sorcerer's Hyperborea, Jeff Talanian's game, right?
Yep.
He came up with the most recent edition of his game at a Kickstarter, and I backed it at the leatherette volume level. The
So did I.
looks fucking insane. He finally posted a picture of it. Eric, I got put the link in the Instagram page link.
Oh, I didn't. I should have looked at the picture.
It's so cool. I just kicked it into the our private chat there if you want to pull it up.
Yep,
but
hold on a sec.
I made a comment and I said, "Oh man, I can't wait to get this book. It looks like it's bound in the skin of my monster's enemies." And that's awesome looking, this thing. It looks like, look at that thing.
Yeah.
That's just cool, man. And it's worth 2 extra months or whatever the hell happened to the shipping and blah, blah, blah. I don't care. It's just a cool book. That's my favorite game that I don't run because I can't get anyone else to play with me. You know what I mean?
Okay, I'm going to be catty here towards another publisher. Okay. No, I have the first edition, the box set of the first edition of that game.
Yeah.
But I see that version's got the underground metal logo font.
Yeah.
Does that live up to that promise of using that kind of font? Is the game still the same, or have they gone harder edge to justify the aesthetic?
I think the game has been fundamentally the same since the beginning. He's been tweaking around the games. It's mostly for balance purposes. From what I've seen, the changes between, at least, I don't have the first one that you're talking about. I've seen it, but I don't have it. I have the second edition, and then I bought where he split off the player's handbook thing into a separate book, so you don't have to lug around that massive, thick hard book. And now I'm waiting for the third. So my understanding between the second and the third edition, it's tinkering. There was a couple larger changes, but it didn't change the style, the aesthetic, or anything. So the game you got there, James, it's fundamentally, I would say 95% the same.
I mean, Jeff does some good adventures, by the way. His adventures are
excellent.
Metal-ish. They are not milk and cookies adventures. Okay, and they're not railroads, but they are tough, atmospheric, and whoever he hires to write his adventures, he's going to a good well. Like you have a certain well you tend to go to, but you have the creators that are going to create well and keep consistent to your vision. He does the same. So the adventures are spot on. I've been looking to run his adventures with even other OSR rule sets.
My point there is if you're going to use the death or black metal aesthetic on the outside, it should have that death and black metal aesthetic on the inside.
I won't.
That's just me.
I won't know for another month and a half until
didn't he use like a comic book sort of style or font like in his other books before that? From what I remember.
Yeah, it's a comic book art. Like, do you have the? Let me see. Do you have the book, Eric? Do you have the PDF you can pull up?
I don't know if I have it anywhere.
Oh, I mean, I'm just asking you, Joe, because I mean, it seems like a big jump to go from, Silver Age comic book kind of style to death metal kind of thing.
It was Silver Age Conan style artwork, is what.
Right. Yeah. That's what I remember.
This is AD&D without any Tolkien influence. Is the best way I could describe this. His stuff.
Yeah.
Right. That's here, like all right, boom.
Nope.
That. Can you pull me up, Eric?
Oh yeah, let's give you your. Oh, hold on a second.
Oh, screen share by Joe, huh?
Yeah, it's not
No,
even a
that's not
screen share.
It's a
I
live.
pulled my
a live
camera
from
down.
Joe.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
So
There we go.
So that's his comic aesthetic, James. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it's but look at the interior. That's the first couple pages here. I think he does a good job. You know, this art, like it's evocative, and he ties in his book to a certain style of game, and that also fits his setting. Like everything is tied together. It's kind of like yours. He has a more defined setting. He has a map, and he has and he's picked and chosen a lot of different things from a lot of different places. But like looking at this art, it fits. Like everything fits his book. It's all one seamless thing. And I have done in the past run some games of his, like I've run yours, using the game as my sub for AD&D. You know, I've used yours as a sub for the old school games. You know, but you get more out of it if you play his game in his world with his system, and it all ties together much better. You know, I think it's a well done book, though. I really do. I think he did a good job. The last con that I was at before, that's kind of cool. The last con that I made it to before COVID hit was what the hell is it? TotalCon up there in Massachusetts. Yeah. And then 2 months later, the world shut down. But I was lucky enough to play in Jeff's game. Well, he ran the thing he was play testing. It was really good, you know, and it does. I think if you miss out on something, just like with your game, James, if you miss out on something, if you're playing LOTFP just as a basic clone, if you want that, use old school essentials. I think if you play play LTFP, use some of the modules, go for the look and feel, the style, and then you'll get much more out of it. I didn't know that 8 or 10 years ago when I first played it, you know, so that's sort of the difference there.
Yeah, because I think Gavin's done a real good job with OSE. I mean, that's.
Yeah.
I've seen people complaining, oh, why is this so popular? It's just the basic clone. It's like, well, yeah, it's D&D. It's like D&D the way it should be.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, it's going to be more popular than, say, here's bloody guts and
But
obviously.
But OSE is D&D with a kick-ass layout. So
yeah, that's the best thing he's got is his fucking layout.
Right.
Is perfect. It's perfection. You know, that's really it.
But there's nothing says that you have to play James's Adventures using the Lamentations of the Flame Prince.
No, not at all.
Rules, because it'll fit almost like a glove with OSE, because it's essentially the same rule set. Just like I'm probably gonna, even though I backed Jeff's shit at the highest level, I don't think I could get my old group of gamers from high school and college who I still socialize with. They want to get back into gaming. I don't think that's the rules that they want to invest in their 50s to try to get back into gaming. But the adventures that Jeff wrote, I can see that playing out very well with them. So I just got to find the rule set that'll fit them and their ability to invest their time. But don't ever feel like because you don't have James's Lamentations of the Flame Princess weird fantasy rules that you can't play the adventures.
Absolutely.
This is the OSR.
Yeah, the OSR. Now, as I understand, the working definition of the OSR.
Oh, we're going there. Are we going there? All right, let's wait for this question.
The entire point of the OSR branding is that everything would be roughly cross-compatible. No more difficulty cross-compatibility than between basic and advanced D&D back in the day. That is the entire fucking utility of being an OSR game. If you decide that OSR is going to be any emulation of any older game, then what the fuck is it? What is the point of using the same branding for a D&D-alike system and a RuneQuest-alike system? It's like, what's the point? Or when you're doing like you see, I'll say indie bullshit, although people that like that stuff are fully entitled to like it, but it's not fucking OSR.
For example,
James, I've been fighting this battle for 12 fucking years. I tell people there's a group of players out there who like to play, promote, and publish for the classic editions of D&D. We just happen to call ourselves the OSR because in 2010 is when it really caught on. It was fun because you had TSR, OSR. We didn't really care if it was old school Renaissance, old school revival, old school.
I did, Rob. It's old school Renaissance. I cared greatly.
Yeah.
It's bullshit. It's old school.
Because
but that was one of the debates. It was really about the OSR.
Yeah.
You know, and the way you could use it, and then immediately about 2 seconds after we used old side, what do you mean D&D is the only thing that's old school?
It is, asshole.
And then
that's exactly what I fucking mean.
So Traveler fans would beg to disagree. RuneQuest fans would beg to disagree.
So yes, LOTFP material will be fully compatible with any actual OSR game. Yes.
Right.
Yes. Amen.
It's a flavor. I mean, I had never intended for it to be its own game in the first place. I just couldn't get any penetration into the industry by just making third-party adventures for other systems that that aren't very well represented in retail to begin with. So I was like, okay, I got to do this shit myself and make a rule set, and it's still the best-selling. The rule set it still completely blows my mind. It's like, why is the rule set the best-selling thing when that's just the spearhead? It's not the thing, and then.
James, all I wanted to do was do sandbox settings. Those hex crawls over and over again, different places, different times. But I had to do this goddamn rule set myself. It was the only way. I mean, I don't do much store selling, but when I do, if I don't have this in hand, my stuff sells like shit.
Yeah.
I found myself writing a set of rules myself.
Yeah, I don't understand. Yeah, there's something wrong with the people that this is necessary, but and I don't know. I mean, are the stores right that people won't go for the stuff without the thing, or is it just the industry requirement that it needs the brand name rule set to take?
It's training. I think
well,
they've been
look,
just so
I tried
trained to
selling
do
my
it.
stuff without rules. It sucked. When I have a set of rules with it, it goes 3 times faster. What would take like 9 months for to disappear off the guy's shelf would take only 3 months if this was included.
Yeah,
I wonder if it gives it a veneer of legitimacy. Like it's not just somebody's crazy ass module, just something that it relates back to. I don't know. Maybe that's it.
I mean, I remember, back in the day, how many rule sets do we need? Well, apparently we need them all because otherwise we can't do shit else.
And most of them are just house rules of whatever the fuck, right? I mean,
I think the only reason why this became a gold seller is because this, not a complete set of rules, but this half is a rule book. This is what I really wanted to sell my setting.
Yeah. Well, the next one will be platinum or whatever, higher than titanium, whatever, a diamond wrap, because I'm doing the editing, so you'll be even better.
Well, I since I had a deep shit because of deep cam my stuff because of Bob Bledsaw the second.
Crazy lunatic ramblings about shit.
Not so polite ramblings. I basically have a reset. Except for perhaps Scourge of the Demon Wolf. When I make the revised edition, I can just. I'm not sure whether I should do a new listing with the revised or just update the old one.
Do it new. That way the other's collectible, and you could sell the collectible ones out of your car on the side, make some cash off it, Rob. Raise the value. So James, did you follow that Bledsoe thing? Remember that? Were you thinking of that around then? Or?
I see. I generally, again, my frame of reference for a lot of this is heavy metal.
All right.
And every place that I buy heavy metal, and I don't know how much are you guys going to, but I'm talking even the retail physical stores here in Helsinki. Every place that I buy metal sells both Burzum and Napalm Death. really right-wing Nazi motherfucker and
Mhm.
really left-wing,
Yeah.
activist type stuff. They either sell both or they sell neither because, they don't do the extreme
Wanna go
metal in
there,
the first place.
Yeah.
Right.
And the world doesn't seem to fall apart.
Mhm.
So the idea that there are going to be idiots of whatever stripe in the creative scene is like a given. This isn't
That's
this
where I was
isn't
going
a
with this.
this isn't a hobby that just appeals to a certain kind of person. This
Yeah.
is a hobby that appeals to everybody, which means everybody's going to want to be involved in making stuff and all that. And I don't I mean, I don't know where the proper line is
Mm.
to say, okay, that this person isn't. I don't know, because I mean, metal. Yeah, it's difficult because when I hear that a Nazi band's coming to Helsinki, I don't fucking go.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's
Right.
but I also don't keep tabs on who does go. I
Mhm.
don't give a shit. And I know there's this one guy that used to exhibit at Ropacon, and he would exhibit at the film festivals, pro wrestling shows, heavy metal shows. He'd sell his stuff. And it turns out this guy's been involved in white power movements in Finland.
Mm.
I remember when he was next to me at Ropacon, and I noticed he had a lot of occult books, and some of them were kind of iffy, and it was just like, okay, it's I don't
I wish I can give some advice, but Bob Bledsaw II was so far over the line, and his son was even further, if you could imagine it.
Yeah. Now
Jesus.
all I saw was like the Facebook post where it looks like he was just shit posting something
Right.
that like your typical your stereotypical Donald Trump voters, so just some shit posting, and I saw that and I was like, eh. But then like Goodman like had a cow over it and did the big video that I thought, well, that's a bit much. So I don't know if there's more than that, but that's all I saw, and I was just like, stupid shit poster. So I
No,
don't know.
I mean it went on for a long time, and
Okay. So there's more.
because it's like one every five, or the really bad ones were only one in every five, or even one in every 10. It just didn't pop up in most people's feeds, and then until one day it popped up into mine,
Yeah.
and I looked at it and I was just dumbstruck. And so, as these guys know, I'm a Google search fiend. So I went searching through his timeline and I found all the other crap. And at first I didn't want to believe it because I knew where this was going, but after talking with Tim and my wife and a bunch of other people, I just made my post late. Oh, I talked to him first. And it turns out he's a true believer. So I didn't, before I breathed a word. I mean, I talked to Tim and my wife and some other people, but I before I said anything public, I talked to him, and he's a true believer. He believes that Jews control.
You don't have to go
media.
into all of it, Rob.
Yeah. Anyway, so it was after that. Then I notified the licensees, and let's just say some of them didn't take it well.
Well, I mean, in the case of Frog Guy Games, who had done Tigo Manor, and it was releasing right as this came to head. They had they part of the contract included binding arbitration in case of social media stupidity. God bless whoever wrote that contract. And, I was told this is the first time that I knew of where my blog was actually used as evidence in the proceeding from both sides. Apparently, Bob thought I was a good source to tell his story, and Frog God's lawyer felt that I was a good source to document everything that was publicly known. Frog God won that arbitration. I believe the number is around 50,000. And so this can have. I mean, that's a price that is just, for pure stupidity. And there's a great thing to be said. If you are a publisher to be apolitical is probably the best place you can ever put yourself.
Mm-hmm. Well, there was a list of that, right? That made the RPG site a year or two ago, and there's very few people who made the list where they were just apolitical. I think Castles and Crusades were on the top of the list where you don't know what the hell they believe. Their beliefs are completely separate. They put out good shit. Everybody likes it. And some people really like it.
The RPG site enemies list.
Yeah,
I decided just ignore that. I was tempted to just go ahead.
You didn't look?
Put me in the red because I should be on any enemies list. Just put me on every enemies list. Fuck this shit.
Hey, I'm ranked too good. I want to be ranked worse. Come on, what the hell is this?
No, the pundit thinks the best way to sell his stuff to be the shot jock all the time. So that's what he turned the RPG site. So all of us, a lot of the people that used to post there fled. And I mean, you used to post there. I used to post there. And now we post other places.
When I got banned from EN World, I started posting over there. Actually, I was asked to leave EN World. I got banned later. I got banned from there, James, because of a blog post. But that Morris douche, he banned me from EN World because of a blog post, my personal blog. Bitch.
I remember. I'm not banned from N-World. I haven't tried posting there in years and years and years, but I still remember why I got. Oh God, these old story. Why I got banned from RPG Net.
Big
Purple. Big Purple. Oh, jeez.
Yeah, because
hard for me to get banned from RPG Net.
Well, what is? You know what? Oh God, and this. I won't name names, but this is not about Zach. There was one of the moderators there that was. There was a moderator there that off-site was promoting making false allegations against a person because it's funny. And I'm like, and so I just totally shit on this person because they were a moderator at RPG Net and they just got rid of me. And it's just like, okay, well, fuck you, you know?
Yeah.
What is that shit?
Yeah. It's a useless base anyway. I mean, you moderate something to death. There's no genuine discussion. So one thing I did like about the RPG site is it always went there. It was very light moderation, and people could get into it, and then it would just bathe the like nice bad Mike. That it would just go run its course eventually. You know what I mean? It was just kind of a decent place for that.
Yeah, but it's now a bunch of whiners.
Yeah. Oh, really? I haven't been there.
Well, I mean, every other thread is a bunch of whiners.
Really?
Yeah, I only go there when somebody links something to me like, you got to read this. And it's like, of the thread that I got to read, which part is the part that I have to read? Because the rest of it is painful shit.
I frequent the RPG pub. That's a good bunch of folks.
Yeah, I do miss the central thing. Remember, I mean, I like the blogging. I think that was better than Google Plus, but I do miss Google Plus before it got toxic. I wish we had something. You know, still, I wish the OSR still had a central place. A hub.
I hate Facebook. I hate Facebook.
I can't stand it. I hate Facebook and Twitter's stupid. Twitter's not a community.
I remember back in the day in the OSR when the big conflict was the message boarders who liked the pure Gygaxian TSR and the bloggers who were using it as a springboard for their own stuff.
Right.
And
that's exactly what it was.
That was heaven. Remember everyone getting pissed off? Oh, them bloggers!
Yeah.
Because one of the big boosts of LOTFP, just as I was releasing the first version of my rule set, was my post. The OSR is better than TSR, and Tim Kask blew a fuse over that. And that was like, oh, this is cool publicity. Because I was preparing for my first convention where I'm selling stuff, and I was buying all sorts of stuff from other people to sell at my booth. And so I was really seeing, even in 2010, the breadth of what we were doing in so many different visions using a common rule set that was, to me, was so much more exciting than, even though TSR had stuff that will always be legendary, they were all still always had this one vision that, and the combination of a bunch of people's independent visions around roughly the same subject is always going to be better than just the one example of the vision, you know, with the corp, you know. Right. So that's all I was talking about. I wasn't saying TSR was shit, but Cask, you know, he didn't like that, and it was like free publicity because, yeah.
Get an old timer to beat you up or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're still around. I mean, the OD&D's discussion forum, Knights and Knaves, Dragon's Foot.
Knights and Knaves. I forgot about that one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Dragon's Foot. Dragon's Foot was pretty good.
Still as touchy as they are today as they were back in the day.
Oh,
Yeah.
true.
They were cranky back then.
Oh,
Remember
they're all still about AD&D, about plain AD&D as is.
Yeah.
Good for them. If that's what they want to do, no one should tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I defended it plenty of times when it came up in other forums, even to this day.
Yeah. James, you've been here 3 hours, man. It's what you started at 3 a.m. It's 6 a.m. You gotta go.
It's time for you to get up now, James.
Yeah, the sun is rising, isn't it, James?
I'm good. I can outlast all you motherfuckers.
I think you probably could. I don't think my bladder can last it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, right. I've been holding in. I've been good today.
I remember one time, what was it, a couple years ago, I ended up on this one place that we were there for like 5.5 hours somehow.
Wow.
So it's just like, yeah, I'm good.
Well,
Damn.
well, how about this? We're going to give you an open offer to come back whenever you want because
Absolutely, man.
Yeah.
Dude, this time flew, and at 55, my bladder won't last 3 hours on a fucking road trip. and I drank this whole glass, and I'm still here. So I mean, that's
Right.
James. You are a very interesting and honest person. So I don't, and for my old profession of being in law enforcement, I know honesty when I see it. You're genuine. So I mean that's something that I can't say about very many people in our hobby. Certainly can say it about this room because I know everybody in this room. But thank you, honestly.
Yeah, thanks for coming, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming.
Getting up early and shit. What's a
Thank
Saturday
you for having me on. Yeah.
You got a 3 a.m. on a Saturday afternoon or Saturday morning, man.
Well, 6 a.m. now. Yeah. Well.
Yeah, I think the last time I actually spoke with you was when you popped in on our Google Hangout one night, Saturday night game.
Yeah.
And you popped in as we were logging out like around 2:00.
It was.
And then the next thing I knew, it was like 5 a.m. here in New York, and I'm like, holy shit! And my wife is literally in the next room. It's one of those old houses. It wasn't even a doorway; it's an archway because you were supposed to heat the house from the two fireplaces on the other end. And then she's like, "You're coming to bed now? Why are you even bothering to come to bed?" It's like, because I can't see at the moment.
Yeah, that was a good time. I remember you, Greg Christopher was there, right? Who else was there with us? It was just a long conversation, just like this. It just lasted all night.
Was it Davies might have been with us?
Yeah, Keith was probably there. And maybe,
and maybe Craig Brasco.
Yep.
You know, it was the old Saturday night group.
Yeah, that was fun.
Again, James, as you have new stuff coming out, feel free to come back. You know, not just we will pimp your shit, but also we will enjoy having you back, and then you can talk about stuff because it will be printed and releasing, and you'll be able to say, "I'm not going to get caught with my pants down." So we'll be happy to do that.
Yeah, keep your pants on, James.
Yes, we have one.
Oh, we were supposed to have
you got to be wearing clothes.
Yeah. I do have that picture, the famous. Shall we show it on the way out?
I don't know what is with you, Joe, and collecting naked guy
they're great
pictures.
because now I can say this, and James like, so what picture is he fucking talking about?
You know what picture?
There are a few out there.
I'm pretty sure this is the one with you laying down. Looking nice and sexy.
That's going to be AI or something.
No, that would.
Remember, there was another one. I was at I think I was at a convention. It might have been traveling for something else, but I ended up in a hotel room where right across from the toilet was this full-length mirror. So I took a picture of myself, on the toilet with this full-length mirror. So that's out there too.
I remember that one.
And then there's
Joe, I hate you, man.
And then I did.
Show it. There you go.
Oh,
there you
nice
go.
bag, yeah. And then there, oh God, I was so young. That's the depressing part, not the embarrassing part. Because just like 6 months ago, when I was doing a promo for Strict Time Records Must Be Kept, I did like the video where I was naked, and I look fucking horrible these days. I've really not been kind to myself, and so that's out there with like that's hiding only what was necessary to be able to get on YouTube. So there's some because there's something about it's not this. Oh God, my final pitch is like when I'm promoting weird fantasy, I realize I'm not exactly normal, and there's also it's not just horror and feel bad. There's a goofiness and playfulness, and I got this Andy Kaufman thing in the back of my head too, to just fuck with people. It's like wait, why is he doing that? Oh Jesus,
I got the REM song in my head. Thank you, appreciate that. Andy, can you think about it? Sorry.
Yeah, it's like in the position I'm at, I'm not in a position where I could just be CEO and release stuff, and there's a marketing machine. It's like I have to also be a personality to sell my stuff, which is going to turn as many people off as it turns on. But it's just like, what are the options here? Maybe if I'm going to do that, then it's also, if I'm going to be the face and personality, that's also got to be something that based on things that I like and the expression and I like other weird entertainers. So fuck.
You gotta be yourself. At the end of the day, you gotta be yourself. You gotta be true to yourself.
That's the entire. This is a creative field. If it's not self-expression, or if it's not helping, the other author with their self-expression, then it's just plastic bullshit. So
phony bull. Why be here? Why live a life if you're gonna be somebody else's?
There's a lot more stable lives to live than doing this shit. If you're gonna have to play by someone else's rules. So
I know you're from originally Connecticut, my state. You ever get back? Do you have family out here? You get back out here?
No, family's in Florida now.
Okay.
Yeah. Fuck that. I lived in Greenwich, Connecticut.
Dude,
in the projects of Greenwich.
Greenwich, Connecticut. If anybody who doesn't know, Greenwich, Connecticut is, I think, per capita, the richest city in the world. I'm not exaggerating. I think it's the richest city in the world.
In the U.S.
The U.S. definitely. I don't know. Maybe some of the Saudi Arabian cities might have taken over by now. So it's stupid rich, and he grew up in the projects of the richest city in the country.
Yeah, so I grew up where we had to like really wait for the welfare check at the beginning of the month so we can have like milk again. And I'm going to school, elementary school, with kids that live in $1 million homes. I mean, that is fucking weird.
Or tens of $1 million homes. Yeah, it's insane, man. I can't imagine what the hell the dichotomy of that existence was. But explains a lot. Just saying. Anyway, guys, I think we're probably wrap it up after 3 hours and full bladders.
3 hours, 4 minutes, 9 seconds, 10.
Rob's really got to go. He's counting the minutes down.
I think he's fading off there.
Thanks, James. Appreciate you coming, man. Anytime, definitely.
Thank you.
Hang around after the green room. We always have a farewell salute.
Yeah.
All right, guys. I will. Guys, I guess I'm the designated wrapper-upper
now, Garrett?
So, guys, we are still in the world. How does it go? In the world of what? In the world of monkeypox, we're still. So everybody, make sure you wear at least 3 rubbers if it was because you don't want to get that shit. All right, trust me, I know. Anyway, everybody, take care, and we'll see you in 2 weeks, something like that. No, it's a weird thing. When are we back? Second and fourth? What are we first and third?
We're back. No, you're actually. This show is back in. Fuck! Now I got to figure this.
3 weeks.
3 weeks. I think 3 weeks. We got a bonus one. Yeah. Yes, we do it the first and third week of the month. So stay tuned. You never know who the fuck's going to drop in. James might be back. Who knows? Clothed, but he'll be here at some point. All right, guys. Thank you. Thanks, James.